Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Happy to have you with us after a long weekend, hopefully an enjoyable long weekend. President's Day. One of those holidays mostly defined by retail sales at this point, but it's an extra day off, and I think the weather timed out pretty nicely. That's my hope, at least for most of you people out there, where the blusters and the blowing wind and the storms seem to have allowed for everyone to get back to home base safely before the snow blew in, and it's obviously something we need. So a chilly day, a cold day. Last night, hurricane force winds blowing all of the furniture outside my house around, because we're one of those families that doesn't properly winterize their patio furniture. So chairs and tables and everything sliding all over the deck. And some precipitation in the mountains and even down in the valleys here today and tomorrow, which, again, we need it. What an interesting weekend in sports. Obviously, the Olympics taking, I think, for a lot of people, center stage. College basketball heating up. Big 12 basketball with some fascinating results. And dare I say it? Am I ready? Should we get into this? Was a good NBA All-Star weekend. The NBA All-Star format may have fixed some of the problem. The players seem to actually want to compete. Now, I think that realistically, most of us understand that they're not going to be playing the same level of basketball you're going to see, especially the same level of defense that you're going to see in like an NBA Finals or a conference finals or a playoff or even an important home game. But this was fun. Little round robin, 12-minute games, little snackable basketball content. Stars versus Stripes, Team USA versus International Stars. And maybe Adam Silver or whomever found a way to get in touch with the players. Maybe somebody finally tapped into LeBron and said, look, man, you only got one or two more of these weekends. We want you to make everybody care about it. We really need to quell this narrative that the NBA is a bad product right now, because heading into the All-Star break, and yeah, a lot of it centered around the Utah Jazz, there was plenty of controversy and plenty of conversation around the fact that, like, you know what? NBA basketball, the regular season kind of stinks. Bill Simmons out there saying, you could shorten this thing. You could make it 70 games instead of 82 games. You could make it 60 games instead of 82 games. We've talked about it on my show. I don't need NBA basketball before Christmas. I don't need it. I know that there's plenty of hoop heads out there that are like, come on, man. That's like the whole preseason being in the fall and then having semi-meaningless or less meaningful NBA games to smatter in while you're still dialed in all the way on football. That's a nice thing. And maybe for you it is. But I wonder how much of this extra effort in NBA All-Star Weekend was just an acknowledgement by the league, by the players in the league, by ownership, players, front office, as in the NBA front office, finally getting on a same page sort of situation where they're like, look, we cannot afford for negative narratives to overtake our sport. We've had a really nice little decade of stars, emerging international players, continuing to expand our game, sponsors just loving what we do, television networks paying us billions upon billions of dollars in order to carry our content, and all of you benefit from that. Every single one of you load managing sissies out there, you guys are all benefiting from this, so we have to stop. We have to nip this in the bud. We have to stop this negative talk about our league, and a really successful way to do that is to reverse the narrative about All-Star Weekend, where fans have gotten a little bit disenfranchised by the idea that the best players in the league can't be bothered to care about being named an all-star and playing in a game called an all-star game and be competitive in that game. It could just be as simple as there are guys out there like Victor Wembanyama who is not yet jaded. He has not yet been dulled by the excessive criticism and the continuous money-only conversations around the NBA. And maybe Victor Wembanyama is enough of a spark plug because he's so dang good and he's such a physical freak that other players, American players, veteran players, are looking at it and they're just going like, well, look, if he's going to show up and he's going to try at 85% or 90%, I got enough pride that I'm going to do the same thing. Maybe we're crowning the Prince Victor Wembanyama too much in offering him that kind of credit. But at the end of the day, for me, this NBA All-Star Weekend was incredibly encouraging because a lot of the problems that we see in sports and in other sports and in crossover, a lot of it is kind of stuff that I don't feel like there's an easy fix to, there's an easy solution to. And the NBA All-Star Weekend showed us that there is a pretty easy fix, at least for that one problem, and it's just effort. I think actually that the NBA could solve the majority of its problems with just that, just effort. College sports right now is plagued by a bunch of things that are overly complicated and too deeply embroiled with attorneys and all that and finances for it to be something we can sort out quickly or painlessly. In the NBA, a good chunk of what people don't like about the NBA could be solved with just consistent effort, want to, and a sort of readoption of the competitive culture that all of us romanticize 70s, 80s, and 90s NBA basketball with. Very few problems in sports right now require an ingredient so clear to just like drop that into your mix and watch as it gets a lot better. You ever watch those like OxyClean commercials where they'll do, rest in peace, what was his name? Billy something?
Billy Mays.
Billy Mays.
But wait, there's more.
With his just jet black Ryan Day beard, he would be like, look what OxyClean does to this muddy water. And
I can't believe what Sean O'Connell said about me and my beard.
He just pours a little teaspoon of OxyClean into like a muddy ice cream bucket of water. And then suddenly the water gets clear. That's what the NBA can do right now with just a little bit of competitive effort.
Competitive OxyClean.
You're still going to have like the betting stuff that's lurking in the background, right? You're still going to have fans like me shaking their fist at the, hey, what are you doing with these like unjust punishments, these inconsistent rule enforcement opportunities where you're only singling out the Jazz and I guess to a lesser extent the Pacers and you're letting everyone else do whatever they want. You're still going to have some of that, but that's like pretty normal, like just the soap opera of sport. You're going to have that where people find something to complain about and then they move on to something that they don't need to complain about. The NBA was kind of brushing up against not an existential crisis because the money's too big, the league's too big to fail, it's a worldwide product, etc. But they were brushing up against a little bit of like a disenfranchisement of a certain segment of the fan base. And I think it was all related to, and it is all related to, the effort quotient. People saying, I don't care about people that don't care about the game. I don't care about teams populated with individuals who are more worried about load management than they are worried about winning a certain number of games, making it to the playoffs, whatever. I have a hard time forking out my hard-earned dollars and buying the merchandise for a team that is going to deliberately tank for 4, 5, 6 years in a row. A lot of those things, a lot of those issues are still going to exist, but what a refreshing little, oh, wow, how tasty was that all-star NBA lemonade? Goes down smooth when you're getting your star players actually trying and giving us a watchable product. 8.8 million viewers. That was the average for NBA All-Star Weekend. Peaked at around 10 million viewers. That's the best in 15 years. Best rating they've gotten on the overnights since 2011. And remember, this is in an atmosphere of entertainment where you have way too many options. The market on anything that can draw your eyes and your attention is just saturated by definition now. You got your phone in your pocket, and then suddenly your phone is in your hand while the NBA All-Star Game is on TV, and then you're scrolling through whatever your drug of choice is, your social media app of choice, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. I don't know if Snapchat is still a thing. But your attention is divided in all these ways. And look, the NBA still gets credit for the televisions that are on while you're not paying attention. But 10 million viewers, an uptick that reflects more positivity than you've seen in 15 years, that's encouraging for an NBA that the last 2 weeks has mostly been beaten down by conversation about this problem, that problem, tanking is a mess, betting is still a problem in this league, who knows what else is going on. Like, Adam Silver and company are probably resting a little, just a teeny bit easier today, are waking up this Tuesday morning after President's Day weekend, after All-Star weekend, and being like, okay, guys, we got, whether Victor Wembanyama is the savior of this anti-competitive mess, or it's the fact that we gave them a format that they actually care about. And maybe you have to call Gary Bettman and say, thank you, NHL, for the Four Nations thing, inspiring this and saying, all right, let's go. Let's make it something, because East versus West wasn't cutting it anymore. Team LeBron versus team whoever team Steph wasn't cutting it anymore. So throw a little national pride, a little world championship, a little Olympic flavor in there, and let's see if these guys care. And they did. At least for those 12-minute games, they cared a little bit more. And the product was better, and the product was more watchable, and lo and behold, the product was more heavily consumed because of it.
Yeah, I hate the every year in the All-Star game, All-Star weekend, it's usually the dunk contest, but lately once every 5 years when it's a really competitive All-Star game, everyone's like, hey, it's saved. The dunk contest was saved. So-and-so saved the dunk contest. And then next year we're all like, the dunk contest has sucked since the 80s. So I feel like we've gotten that territory with the All-Star game. And what I'm going to say is I don't like we have to give instant reaction, but I don't like it's fixed only until next year when it's going to be bad. So what I'm going to say is, it was great, and it was refreshing that it was great, just like those smattering of dunk contests over the last 20, 30 years, the 30, 40 years have been, it's been refreshing to see those. But I'm going to wait and see before I say this is the fix that they needed, because they got to do this consistently, OC. They can't, and since it's only an annual thing, we don't know till next year if they're really gonna buy in, the players that is gonna buy in the way they did to this format. I did really like the format. I think that it was a nice evolution from what they tried last year with the round robin, and it made a lot more sense to be like, instead of playing to 40, let's just play quarters, and instead of having like an hour halftime break in between each of these pickup games to 40, let's do it this relatively the same amount of time that a regular NBA game takes, or regular All-Star game is taken. 5-minute breaks in between quarters, and then we're back to second quarter is team stripes versus the world, right? I liked that tweak to it, and I think that had a lot to do with it too. I would say that probably I would guess that probably had a lot more to do with it than playing against the world did. But yeah, the national pride, probably continental pride in the case of the world, probably had something to do with it too.
Donovan Mitchell was asked about, whether or not it was Victor Wembanyama kind of setting a tone in that first game that woke everybody up, so to speak. And he was like, I was warming up. I didn't even watch him. So I don't know. But Victor has talked like, yeah, he's going to bring it. And so I think that the expectation was that, at least someone here is going to bring it. So you can't be like,
he did last
enough,
year too, in that a lot worse version of what we saw this year.
If you're old enough, if you're LeBron, while everyone else is trying really hard, you could be Larry Bird and dream teaming your way up and down and just kind of like yogging, throw a couple of passes. You don't have to be at the same level of intensity as everyone else is if you're that elder statesman. But the natural reaction, again, everybody that makes it to the NBA fancies themselves some level of alpha. And everyone who's an all-star in the NBA is in reality some level of alpha. So when you get like all of these alphas together and one of them starts being like, I'm better than you, the natural reaction from all the others is going to be like, okay, watch, let's see. And if it's the format that injected that back in, or if it's an individual player or two that injected that back in, you're right. It by itself, the instant reaction to it was fun to see, was awesome. You got to make sure you maintain it. And whether you as a league can incentivize that with these formats or with some kind of bonus structure or with whatever, great. If it's not a league thing and it's a player thing, then keep those players where we need them because that is the fix for the NBA, the try, the effort, the want to. And again, I say it's encouraging because if you ask somebody, how do you fix if there are problems with today's NFL, how do you fix it? And you're just like, oh, man, well, officiating is my problem. And the officiating thing can get really problematic. And then there's other people just like, well, the scheduling is the problem for me. I don't like the scheduling. You crowd out college football in certain situations, and I don't like this. I don't like that. Again,
are we letting too many teams into the playoffs? It's that like, kind of so many different
things. These owners are so dang greedy. Well, how can you solve that? It's not something that you can easily even point out a fix to. The college sports thing is such a mess that you're just like, well, we have to completely reverse the culture of litigiousness in the United States of America in order to fix college sports now.
And Congress has to make laws for us to enforce these things.
And guess what? By the way, if Congress comes out and makes laws, then the lawyers get even more billable hours because they're just like, ha, now we're battling the government on this. Now I'm going up against you and saying this law that you made is unconstitutional and is anti-American and is anti-capitalist, and you're trying to be a like they're going to find ways.
Ends up at the Supreme Court's desk, and all the justices are like, yeah, you know what? You're right. It is unconstitutional. We're back where we were.
Exactly. So like in college sports, you want to figure out how to fix college sports right now. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to put the NIL genie back in the bottle. It's just like, oh, really?
Okay, good luck.
Have fun with that. And I agree with you that would be somewhat of a fix, but it's impossible at this point. Well, I'm going to do the one transfer thing. I love that idea. I love that you can transfer one time penalty free, and after that, there are penalties to your transfer. I wish we could do that. But again, putting that genie back in the bottle, they tried. Remember when they tried to be like, okay, you can transfer as long as you have a good reason to transfer. And people were just like, all right, my reason for transferring is because I'm allergic to my dorm room at LSU.
What's the obscure TV reference coming?
TV instead of movie?
Yeah, prison. What's the Prison Break? Michael Schofield tries to get he gets a stay of transfer because of chronic sinusitis, right?
Okay, so I didn't ever watch Prison Break.
Really good.
And I know that I'm missing out on that. So there are plenty of television show phenomena that I missed. I missed Lost.
You can catch up on both of those, Lost and Prison.
I missed Prison Break. I tried on Breaking Bad twice. I tried, people.
I missed that one too. I need to give it a shot.
I didn't like it. I tried. I gave it a couple. I didn't like it. And I tried. I'm sorry. Now, actually, we might have another one right now happening, like a cultural phenomenon television show. We haven't had one of those in a while, have we?
I feel like Succession was that a few
Kinda.
years ago.
Okay, sure.
That was like the heir to Game of Thrones for HBO.
So now,
I think I haven't even gotten into that yet. I think that's still technically going, right?
I don't know if there's more seasons of Succession. I think it's done.
Is it done? Okay.
I think I'm like 3 seasons into Succession, and then I realized I needed to take a break from just watching stuff about dysfunctional rich people.
So you started watching the NBA. Oh,
so
shoot.
Wait, dang it, more dysfunctional rich people. No, but I right now we might have a Night of Seven Kingdoms.
Oh yeah,
the
I
Game
haven't
of Thrones
started
spinoff
yet, but I'm
is
ready.
Awesome.
Yeah,
and it feels like it's maybe going to crest up as a wave that could crash over all of society, like a crossover. I think it's actually a lot more palatable for people that didn't like the idea of Game of Thrones with the magic and the dragons and stuff, right?
Oh, okay.
Like that right now, because A Night of the Seven Kingdoms has none of that as of now.
it's So
It's
I'm waiting for all of the episodes to
So you
be
can binge it?
released so I can binge it.
That is a good idea.
But I am. Did you watch House of Dragon?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the second. So the second spinoff to Game of Thrones. So it's just not. It's more history, not fantasy. For what? Historical fiction, not fantasy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess it's not even historical
Well, I
fiction.
mean,
because
right.
It's period sort of.
Yeah.
It's like, you're watching a really interesting show about knights,
Yeah. Okay.
about what you would call like medieval, whatever, chicanery,
And
warfare.
it's like sounds like the guy Duncan travels and does the different tournaments, right?
Well, here's the thing about it. I don't want to spoil anything for everyone,
Yeah.
but it's like it's a slow burn, but in a way that leaves you wanting more instead of frustrating you.
Okay.
And we're not here to break down
Night of the
television shows, but it's been a while since we've had one of those shows that like everybody has an opinion about. Everyone is like, "Oh, I can't wait for the season finale. I can't wait for this." I think we're getting to that point with the Night of Seven Kingdoms.
Hold on, not HBO, but Stranger Things was a cultural
for
phenomenon.
sure. Yeah, you're right.
It's that kind of bridged the gap between
100%. You're right.
Game of Thrones.
Can't believe I missed that one. We just had the series finale
Yeah.
of Stranger Things.
But as far as HBO's been in a little drought with that. I think Succession might have been the closest thing.
So, in any case, before we get too far afield, and James is right. You don't have to be a prisoner of the moment and say, "Well, the NBA is fixed and we figured it out now." But it was refreshing. It's a nice little drink of lemonade.
Gives you hope that this could be a long-term fix, but
And
we
I
just
really
don't
want to
know
know.
yet.
I hope that we get some more insight into what motivated the players this year versus the last several. Whether it was the format, whether it was the kind of like World versus USA, or whether it's the fact that you now have an injection of young talent. A lot of these guys are they're good enough to not care if their peers want to be like too cool for school. You know what I mean? I think we got into a situation in the NBA where everyone was like, you know what? The fraternity of the NBA means more to me even than like my individual team does. Where being part of the cool kids club and making sure that like LeBron and Chris Paul and all these guys, like, and Anthony Davis, that I'm down with those guys. Like, those guys think that I'm part of their peer group. I think it became too important to too many stars in the league. And I think that there were not enough of the Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green characters. They were just like, I don't care if everybody hates me. Like, Michael Jordan was that way. Karl Malone was that way. David Robinson was that way. Larry Bird was certainly that way. But even after that, Kobe Bryant, while he was playing, was very much that way.
Kevin Garnett was
a
maniac.
Was an absolute sociopath. Shaquille O'Neal was happy to, on the court, disrespect anybody.
Yeah.
Alonzo Mourning, like these guys.
Tim Duncan, but he also didn't care about the attention.
So I think that we got to like a weird spot, and maybe we're still there, but we definitely got to a weird spot in the NBA where the sport had grown big enough and the phenomenon was big enough that you had like this pseudo celebrity clique that was just as important to your status in the NBA as being a champion in the NBA. Like the All-Star game in a decade and a half was really just like a gathering of those guys to all be friends with each other again and to get to hang out with each other and to have their exclusive trip that nobody else got to be a part of. And I thought that was a little bit detrimental. But now you've got some guys that, like, you know, not that these people aren't respectful towards each other, they're not friendly towards each other, and they're probably genuine friends. But I think that, like, the Lucas of the world and the Jokers of the world and certainly the Wembanyamas of the world.
Ant-Man.
And Anthony, for certain. And, like,
he's like,
I don't know if Donovan Mitchell's in this category, but, like, I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander might be in this category where they're just like, yeah. Like, it's a fraternity, it's a brotherhood because we're all doing this thing. But also, I want to melt your face with my moves.
I think Donovan hopefully is transitioning more into that, but I think he absolutely was the I'm thirsty for recognition guy.
Yeah, I think he probably falls more on that side of things.
Hopefully he's
I honestly think this is part of the reason why Rudy Gobert has had such a problematic type reputation in the league, because I think Rudy has always been a guy that's just like, why do I want to be friends with you? I want to beat you. Yeah. And his skill set is not flashy, and so he's always going to be looked at as a little bit of a pariah that way. But I think also, like, him being this gangly French weirdo that didn't want to be part of the boys club, I think that hurt his career and his reputation in a lot of ways. And it's so funny because NBA fans, I think, fed into this so much, and they were just like, I want LeBron to have crossover stardom, and I want him to live in LA, and I want him to be in Miami, and I want to be able to, like, this market saturation and all that stuff. And then you got to a point where you're just like, wait, I actually don't like that. But we created the problem, and now we started to criticize the problem. Like, oh, these guys they're too buddy-buddy. They're too friendly with each other. It's like, yeah, but that's because we rewarded them for that specifically for almost 20 years of that particular class's career. And I think these young guys might be getting away from it. Maybe. Hopefully. Cross my fingers.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Most of the guys you named are international stars, right? And I think that being a continent away from the AAU scene,
I think it's helpful.
Probably helps those guys to have that more old school mindset, even though those guys were professionals since they were like 14 years old. And they have their own thing they played with or against a lot of the other European stars, but it hasn't gotten quite as problematic as the buddy American AAU scene has got.
I also think, like, specifically with, like, Joker, I don't think he cares to even be in the NBA.
He's just really good.
He's just so good that I think it creates this, like, he's almost aloof to all of it.
See, he certainly has a passion for the game, but he would play it. He would create a league on his farm and have the same passion.
Honestly,
right?
have you guys seen, I mean, most of you have you seen the highlights of Serbian basketball? Like the professional Serbian league, where they play in these crowded gyms where they have like road flares and fireworks going. They're like smoky and they're crazy. And they have the ultra fans that are standing the whole time, and they have like these rocking back and forth chants. And it's like a hostile, weird environment. I think he would play there.
Yeah.
If the NBA was just like, yeah, dude, he'd be like, all right, I already made enough money. I got my horses, bye. And he'd just go play there.
Yeah.
It's a weird deal with him specifically. I think Wemby is like doing his best to be the crossover star, and he's got kind of his brand and things like that. But I also think he's just married to the game, man.
Yeah, he's motivated by the competition and the wanting to be the best.
You know who knows?
Which is what you want.
You know who knows a lot more about this than we do? Our next guest, Gordy Chiesa. I'll pick his brain about whether or not this NBA weekend, this last weekend with the NBA All-Star Game was significant in any way for a cultural shift in the league, in the association. Sean O'Connell Show is brought to you today and every day by our good friends over at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. Drink specials every single day. They keep the featured alcohol of the day under $4 per drink, which is insane. I don't imbibe personally, but I can appreciate them trying to make it a wallet-friendly experience for you. And even if you don't want to drink, the food menu is worth heading to Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. A perfect place for you to watch the Olympics tonight, tomorrow, and every night. Tell them Sean O'Connell sent you. Gordy Chiesa next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792 on FM. We welcome in Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA guru. Brought to you by Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. If you're looking for a skylight in the home, Aladdin Industries got you covered. Gordy, how are you, sir?
Sean, I'm doing well. Thank you.
All-Star Weekend, NBA All-Star Weekend. Big ratings. I loved what we saw from it. What was your reaction?
Same thing also. It was a home run for the NBA. One was in L.A. So whenever it's in a huge city like L.A. or New York, it's really happening. And the players in the All-Star game absolutely competed hard. So there was some doubt about whether the players would perform with intensity, and that was absolutely, we saw firsthand that they did. And led by, ironically, by the young fellas of the world team, Victor Wembanyama was a huge factor in that, and then also Anthony Edwards, whose team won the title as far as his team was called the Stars. And so they led the charge. They competed at a high level, and everyone else was ready to go too.
So, Gordy, the competitiveness, do you think it came more from the format, from the young guys, like you said, just kind of like getting the best out of everyone else? Where do you think that, I guess, re-injected competitiveness came from?
The young fellas. What happens in the NBA, it's almost like a pecking order where the veterans, they understand it's really a long season, so they try to, in these all-star type games, just to hang out. For them, it's more of a global branding. For the young guys, they want to prove themselves that they're equal, if not better, than the more established players. So the winning team was, just think about the winning team. It was nicknamed the Stars, was Devin Booker, Therese Maxey, Jalen Durham, Kate Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Johnson, and Chet Holmgren. And so all those guys are between 21 and 27 years old, and that's the A-list generation of players that are going to, or American players now, that are going to excel. And so they were ready for it. And Anthony Edwards, you can make a discussion. He's a budding Kobe Bryant, the way he plays the game, but a lot of enthusiasm, and he has passion. And he led the team, and he was voted the MVP of the game, which ironically, Sean, the trophy is named after Kobe Bryant.
Is it sustainable, Gordy? Are we going to see this be kind of the new norm for the NBA All-Star Weekend?
Yes. Yeah, the answer is they might tweak it maybe 20%, but absolutely we'll see that. Because there's so many great world players. And remember, Giannis didn't play. He also didn't play Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So Wembanyama was absolutely tremendous. And he's the face of the NBA, and so is Anthony Edwards and other guys too. Look at Doncic. They're the face of the NBA. But the young players really were ready to roll, and they did. Let's give a quick recap, though. The MVP of the game was mentioned Anthony Edwards. The slam dunk contest winner was from Miami Heat, a guy named Keyshawn Johnson, and he won $105,000, Sean, for as far as winning the dunk contest. The three-point shooting contest was led by former Weber State great and Oakland native Dame Lillard. He won $50,000 for it, and made it so interesting. He's coming off a left Achilles surgery, rehabbing, so he hasn't really played at all since last April. And be able to shoot like that, and that shootout with Devin Booker was sensational. Now he ties Larry Bird and Craig Hodges as the only three-time winner of the three-point shooting contest. Last point about that, he's now challenged Steph Curry the next year when it's going to be in Phoenix, the All-Star game. Can they have like a galaxy of all the great shooters in the NBA all at one time play in this almost like OK Corral shootout in Phoenix next year?
Gordy Chase is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. So how do you – not that the NBA was struggling or anything like that, but how do you capitalize on this All-Star Weekend positivity if you're the NBA? A lot of the conversation leading up to this, in the media at least, was about, tanking. How do you fix tanking? The Utah Jazz are tanking this way and we don't like it. The Pacers are tanking the other way. We're going to ignore all the other teams that are tanking. And, I mean, there's some serious negativity in a conversational standpoint around the NBA. I don't know. I don't expect this weekend to completely wash it away. But if you're the league, if you're the players in the league, if you're the coaches in the league, how do you capitalize on the warm, fuzzy feelings that your fans have for you right now?
By always talking about it, by messaging that the game was great. The weekend, there were so many compelling stories. It was fan engagement to the extreme, and everybody felt that it was the NBA was their best foot forward. Now, remember, it's a business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. And if you're NBC Sports and the other partners, as far as the media, that you have to make money from this, and they know that. And so it's the messaging of how you present it all the time. But the best message is what? The visualization, how the players performed. Because the players are the talent. And that's the most important thing. We never forget that. When you're a coach in the NBA or in the NFL, the players are number one. Because without the talent, the fans don't go to the game. And we all know that. And that's why the players performed. And you have to encourage them each year, make it even more intense as far as playing in the All-Star game. And yesteryear, it was a pride factor. Now it's more of an element of pride factor, but also now with the global of the NBA, and now it's more of a foreign versus Americans as far as who's better. It's an American game, but in the early 1980s, that's when the foreign players started emerging, led by the NBA, led by the college NBA coaches that taught those guys the game.
Gordy, give me a sense of now how the tone in the locker room shifts post All-Star weekend. You're heading down the home stretch. Your regular season games all get a little bit more important, things like that. Is there a marked shift for coaches and players now that the All-Star weekend is in the rear view?
Yes, very much. Well, here's the first part about that, is that if you're a playoff-bound team, it's accelerated. It's that, as I say often, rookies, you're a rookie until All-Star weekend. And after All-Star weekend, the rookies that play in a regular rotation for playoff-bound teams, they become first-year players. And now they're allies of the veterans on the team. Before that, they were rookies. And now the veterans of those playoff-bound teams, they want those rookies, which now first-year players, to play with defensive urgency, be more physical, and understand crucial late-game execution. You're no longer a young fellow where we give you a chance to ease in. We're heading to the playoffs, and we want you to be able to get onto the court and help us. So it's absolutely accelerated. And the good teams, they embrace that. Now, the lesser teams, now comes that word you mentioned before about tanking. And it's unfortunate because the best way to get better in the NBA is through the draft. But it's unknown science, and you have to be very patient. And that's what makes it so interesting, where we know it does work. You should ask the Thunder that, and also the Spurs. But it took the Charlotte Hornets many years to do it. And so that's what the problem is, that there's two forces. The teams, the playoff teams, they're really fighting, biting, clawing to get a better seed. And those 8 teams basically that want to get in the lottery to pick, they believe, a generational type player will help their franchise. Quickly, Sean, here's the 8 teams that are probably, quote, tanking. Wizards, Pacers, Nets, Grizzlies, Mavs, Jazz, Pelicans, and Kings. Oh, by the way, the Kings have lost 14 straight games. The Mavs have lost 9 straight games, and the Grizzlies have lost 4 straight games. And so that's an illustration of those teams. Now, sometimes the players, Sean, don't cooperate. So if you're a guy playing in those games, hey, I want to win, and that's when it gets interesting.
Those teams that you mentioned, obviously the Jazz have been fined. Will any of these other teams get fined for tanking before the year's over?
Yes. Yeah, they picked on the Jazz for some reason. Yeah, I have a real problem with that, why they was only the Jazz. You could pick those other 7 or 8 teams, the same fine also. So I wish you had behind closed doors to find out why it happened that way. So for the listeners right now, Sean's alluding to, the Jazz are fined $500,000 by the NBA for not playing in the fourth quarter, they're starters, which is such a gray area, and also they find the Pacers $100,000, and so it's a fine line, Sean. And so now I don't want the NBA to tell a coach or a team who to play in the fourth quarter. That's a bad dialogue to start that process. So we'll see how it all plays out. No one knows the answer truly until it plays out. And in March will be the Board of Governors meeting, which means all the owners are going to try to work together and have some sort of commonality of how they can fix this problem, yet still understand the power of the draft. If you draft the right guys as a high draft pick, it really helps your franchise to accelerate to winning. So, for example, in Jazz basketball, where they picked last year Ace Bailey, you get the feeling that Ace Bailey has the potential, and he's only 19 years old, but he has the upside to be an absolutely tremendous NBA player. He could be an all-star because he has enough talent as far as bounciness and develop his ball skills to be an all-star someday. And so you're picking guys like that in the draft, we'll say of a 3 or 4 year period, you get it right. So we'll say most of the time your team will be in the playoffs in the near future. And again, that was the Spurs right now, where the Spurs, Sean, have picked unbelievable as far as in the draft. I know Wembanyama is always people always talk about Wembanyama all the time, and they should. But also they picked Stephen Kessel as a fourth pick back in 2024, and Dylan Harper last year as the second pick also, and also they picked Keldon Johnson in the first round in 2019, and so they have a lot of other picks beside Wembanyama, and that's why now they're sitting in the Western Conference as the second best record, 38-16. And remember, Sean, last year the Spurs were 34-48. So the Spurs have more wins right now with 27 games left than they did last year, the whole season.
What's your list today, Gordy?
My list today, Sean, is about somewhat Chris Paul. Chris Paul retired after 21 unbelievable seasons in the NBA. My list today is the most career regular season games won by an individual player. Most career wins regular season by an individual player. Now, a player needs teammates to win games, and so it's a short list of only 12 names. What are some of the attributes and intangibles required to be a career winner? 1, you have to be impactful yourself via scoring, assisting, and rebounding. 2, you have to maintain superior condition and core strength. 3, you have to have a youthful mental focus, like say LeBron James, a mental focus as a youthful person. 4, grateful to have other talented sidekicks to help you win. And 5, you're blessed to have only one or none career entering surgeries, meaning injuries. And so you have to remain healthy your whole career. Now, here we go. Number 11th all time in most career wins, it's a tie. Kobe Bryant and Cliff Robinson, they both have 836 career wins. Cliff Robinson played in the NBA for 18 years. Kobe played in the NBA with the Lakers for 20 years. Number 10 all time, Derek Fisher, 853 wins in 18 seasons. Number 9, Chris Paul, just retired. He had 855 career wins in 21 brilliant seasons. Number 8, Tony Parker, 892 wins in 18 seasons with the Spurs 17 and 1 with the Charlotte Hornets. Number 7, Dirk Nowitzki, 916 wins with the Dallas Mavericks, 21 seasons. Number 6, Karl Malone, all time, 952 wins in 19 seasons, 18 years with the Jazz, 1 year with the Lakers. Number 5 all time, John Stockton, 953 wins, 19 incredible seasons with the Jazz. Number 4 all time, Tim Duncan, 1,001 win in 19 seasons with the Spurs. Number 3 all time, Robert Parrish, 1,014 and 21 seasons. The second greatest winner of all time regular season is LeBron James, 1,031 career wins in 23 seasons and still counting. And the number one player for most wins ever in an NBA career regular season is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 1,074. So LeBron's going to break that record of Kareem if he plays next season, whatever team, whether the Lakers or not. Thus, that's my list of today, all the career greatest winners. So Jets have two players in there, Karl Malone and John Stockton.
You mentioned LeBron. He's been pretty non-committal about his future plans. Do you think he plays next year?
I do. But the question is, Sean, is where? That's the question. So it's going to be drawn out. I get it, especially in the playoffs. So just say the Lakers. Remember, the Lakers, they have a playoff-type team that's built. And so Luka Doncic and LeBron and Austin Reeves have only played together 10 games so far this season. Just 10 games total. And the Lakers right now are the 5th seed. And so they should be able to get minimum into the second round. And then we'll see how it plays out with LeBron's career, how he feels about his team, etc. I know it's not about money totally. It always is somewhat, but in LeBron's case, it's not totally. It's the right fit to try to get another championship. So it's going to be interesting. And LeBron-type players, at the end of their career, they're always trying to get as many wins as they can as far as to go deep in the playoffs to get that magical another ring right now.
That's Gordy Chiesa, brought to you by Aladdin Industries. We'll talk with him again on Thursday as he remains the best in the business as an NBA insider. Thanks again, Gordy.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out. Stay well.
All right, I'm very, very excited about the Hot Lunch today. We have a new Hot Lunch sponsor, a new restaurant, Burger Fusion. Trolley Square is my jam. Burgers are my jam. This is like a combination of two of my favorite things in Salt Lake City. Burger Fusion coming in. We'll talk about it next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome to the Hot Lunch. Now's the time for you to take a couple minutes at work, fire up the YouTube feed if it's not already going, so you can see what Burger Fusion, new sponsor of the Hot Lunch, has brought in today. For I will say our mutual enjoyment, but really it's for my enjoyment because all of you just get to look at it. Mike Jardine, kind enough to come in here and tell us about Burger Fusion. Just opened a couple months ago at Trolley Square, right behind the trolley itself, kind of the middle of that whole Trolley Square complex. They have the trolley out there and the storefronts that are what they would be south facing around the corner from the front door of Whole Foods. That's where you can find Burger Fusion. I'm holding it up to the camera right now, Cheese Royale Burger, and one that Mike described for me off air that I'm very, very excited about, this Caprese Burger in honor of the Olympics being in Italy. I'm seeing and smelling a little balsamic on this thing. First of all, Mike, welcome in. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me in.
No, I appreciate you being part of the show. Let's start with this burger, this special Olympic burger you made.
So that Caprese burger is our burger of the week. We like to introduce something new each week, get people coming back. And in honor of the Olympics, we did a Caprese burger. So it's basically a Caprese salad with a burger. Great combination. Everyone who's tried it basically just describes it as a fresh burger.
The Cheese Royale is also, this is kind of like your staple burger.
Yeah.
Cheese, caramelized onions, tomato, slaw, and a nice-looking patty.
Yeah, so that patty is something we're really proud of. We source that from R&R Ranch and Snake River Farms in Idaho.
Oh, nice.
So it's a combination of chuck from R&R Ranch and then American Wagyu from Snake River Farms. So it's a juicy patty.
Oh,
really
man.
Good quality beef. And then I have a little, I call it burger juice, which my family doesn't love the name, but that's what it does. It makes the burger juicier. That I put in with it before we make it into patties. And so it's actually a very good tasting.
Is that like your proprietary secret? Is that the thing that separates you?
Yeah, I can't share that with anybody.
You know what? That's fine. I can't. Burgers are my thing. This is, if last meal kind of like death row thing. I'm getting a burger, man.
Yeah.
And both of these things are making my mouth water right now. If you're hearing me describe, by the way, the Cheese Royale or the Caprese Burger, and you're just like, I don't know. Yeah, those sound okay. They've got the Velvet Smoke Show, which has peanut butter, berry jam, bacon, caramelized onions, hot honey pickles, and slaw. I'm going to need one of those at some point, Mike. I'm going to tell you that.
That'll be coming this week. I'm kind of leading up to that one.
That sounds great. The Blue Ribbon Burger. They got the Merlot Reserve with Bella Vitano cheese. It's my favorite cheese.
Oh, man, it's so good. That one's based on an appetizer that I like to do with a rosemary cracker, an apple slice, a fresh basil leaf, and some pepper jelly. So good.
I mean, I'm going down the whole menu right now, and I'm going to save some of it because you're going to keep coming in this week. But looking at all of these burgers and every ingredient you put on these burgers, it's all stuff that speaks to me. So where did this come from? You have a background in food service. You and your wife were in the soda shop game for a while. Why burgers?
I don't know. I've always loved burgers. I always got my own meat, and I would grind my own meat and just started creating different burgers just to be different. And then I came up with like the burger juice to put in it and make it a little more savory. So I was finally like, you know what? I just keep making all these burgers for friends. I need to open a place and make them come pay for them. So that was the goal.
All right. Well, we're going to come pay for them too. Burger Fusion is right there in the center of the Trolley Square complex. It's at Trolley Square, around the corner from the front door of Whole Foods, right behind the trolley itself. You've also got sweets on the menu here. Some beignets, some bread pudding.
Yeah, so we make all of our buns homemade in-house, and so I take the leftover buns and make a homemade bread pudding out of them. And then we have beignets that are stuffed with one with cookie butter, which is, Biscoff, one with hazelnut, one with chocolate and caramel, and one with raspberry. So, and then our appetizers, everything we do is cooked in beef tallow, so it just tastes a little, fresher. You don't get that oily taste with all the appetizers and the desserts. And so, yeah, it's a great combination.
He also brought us some onion rings and some fries, but Mike, maybe what I'm most intrigued about here, I'm a big sauce guy, and the assortment of sauces. You brought me all of your available dipping sauces here.
Which I actually didn't quite bring them all.
Oh, wow.
Got to save a few, but I'm a sauce guy. I love to come up with different sauces, too. The sweet chili aioli, which I'll bring the fried pickles in later this week. It's phenomenal with that. The mozzarella squares go great with that garlic parm sauce you see there. The habanero sauce. It's one that it's not too spicy, but it's got a little kick, but it doesn't stick with you your whole meal. So that one's actually really good too. But you'll always see sauces in the shop, and we'll have a very good variety of them.
Man, I'm very excited. Burger Fusion is one of the new friends of the hot lunch. Dipping sauces, you got ranch, barbecue honey bourbon, mango habanero, sweet chili aioli, garlic parmesan, good old-fashioned tangy Utah fry sauce, and regular Utah fry sauce.
Yeah. And every time I am out talking to people, I'm like, guys, you got to try something besides fry sauce. I know you love it. I know it's good, but there's other options out there. Give them a try.
Look, I am all the way in on Burger Fusion before I've even had a bite. Beef tallow for your appetizers, and of course these incredible burgers, very clearly well thought out with the sourcing of the meat, and of course these flavor combinations. Man, I mean, just reading this menu is making me super hungry.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, I love doing it. I love having people come in, try it, trying flavors they've never tried before. You know, we've had people call us a millennial burger spot, which I've decided to take as as a compliment because it is different. And I thought if I'm going to open a burger shop in Salt Lake, which has so many good burger places, it does have to be a little different. Otherwise, why do it?
Well, people know the burger shop I've been most loyal to through my tenure of being on radio here, and I think Burger Fusion's right ready to challenge that. They're not a sponsor of the show, so they don't get any shout-outs, but people know. Mike, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me.
Burger Fusion at Trolley Square. Check it. Relatively new, so you get to be there early in the whole hype train as this momentum builds. Grab some fried pickles, grab the fries, the onion rings. Check out these burgers. We're going to have several options brought in throughout the week, and I'm going to tell you how good all of them are. I'm going to take a break here, and I'm going to start diving into this burger. When we come back, I'll tell you how delicious it was, make you a little bit jealous. But also, are Olympic athletes getting worse? We have to discuss this. If you were watching the Winter Olympics this weekend, you got to know. Red and blue, that's coming as well. It's a lot to get to on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, guys, ladies, gentlemen, listening to the Sean O'Connell Show right now. You have an urgent errand you need to complete before the week is done. Go to Trolley Square and head to Burger Fusion. The burger of the week, this caprese burger, in honor of the Olympics being in Italy. I just took about 4 bites of this during the break, and I'm actually genuinely upset that I have to be doing my radio show right now, and I can't just house this whole thing. Absolutely incredible burger. I mean, just a perfectly juicy patty. The cheese is an excellent complement. Relatively mild cheese flavor here. Fresh tomato. And the incredible balsamic sauce on this thing. It gives it that kind of like light feeling, which in a burger doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's almost like a palate cleanser with every single bite because of the balsamic. And it's got a nice slaw on top for the crisp. Now, that by itself is enough. As Mike from Burger Fusion was leaving, he said, oh, yeah, these fries, we do it in beef tallow, which, whew, so good. Excellent crisp on it. Great flavor. But also, he got this special container that has these little vents in it. Again, holding it up for the observation on the YouTube channel. Because Mike knows how it is when you get a to-go container, you get some fries, and they're in that, like, styrofoam clamshell, and then you pull out the fries, and instead of being nice and crispy, they've been steamed by their own heat and their own moisture into a little bit of a soggy mess. He went and got you a special cardboard container, people, so you don't have that experience. That's the attention to detail going on at Burger Fusion, and I am here for it. Incredible. Woo! New sponsor on the Hot Lunch. Give him a little extra love there because that burger is good. All right. Time to get into some red and blue. We welcome Jonathan Tavernari, the BYU basketball legend. Red and Blue is brought to you by our friends down at Murdoch Ford Santa Quinn. I went down to St. George this weekend, so drove past this dealership on the way down and on the way back. I had failed to appreciate the front lot. You've got every car, truck, SUV you can imagine. The back lot, this thing, when you view it from the freeway as you're driving by, this is a gigantic dealership. There's no chance that there's any kind of Ford
I was telling
vehicle.
you a few weeks ago, OC, when I made my trip down south.
It's huge. They've got every possible thing that Ford makes, I imagine, on the lot right there at Murdoch Ford Santa Quinn. Tell them OC sent you. Tell them JT sent you. Jonathan Tavernari, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm okay. What an emotional weekend that was. And, so I'm doing all right.
Emotional weekend for anyone close to BYU basketball for the obvious reason that Richie Saunders, who's been one of the more beloved guys in the program, especially recently, his season is over. And you hope his career is not over, but we'll see what that decision-making process looks like relative to his opportunities to go pro and things like that. But in a win against Colorado, you still feel like you came away with a loss because Richie Saunders' season is done, which obviously hurts your long-term prospects. Just tell me how you're processing this right now, JT.
Well, so Sean, let me actually take a step back, right? Because, it was also Jimmer's jersey retirement ceremony. And, I've been close with Jimmer and his family since 2006 when he came to BYU on a recruiting trip. And so, let's rewind back to Friday where, we had kind of a dinner, kind of a little ceremony for family and close friends and, a few teammates. And it was just awesome being there, seeing people that haven't seen in years, saw a couple of teammates of mine that I hadn't seen it since I pretty much came back from Europe. And so it started with that, right? Start with that process of the emotional side of things. And then, moved into Saturday, right? And all of the emotions, and I got to be in the arena before the game and seeing a sea of white shirts. And then Saturday, and then right before the ceremony, and then the game starts. And to your point, within less than, a minute, Richie gets hurt and it doesn't look good, and it's by himself. And then at halftime, and so we're concerned about Richie. And then at halftime, it's a Jimmer's retirement, jersey retirement ceremony, more emotions. And then the game goes to overtime against Colorado. And, BYU gave them all the chances to tie the game and win the game. But, Colorado just didn't have enough on their tank to do it. And then the news dropped Saturday night, and I knew it, obviously, because, I'm close to the program, that, it was ACL, and they were worried that it was going to be ACL and MCL. But, and so since pretty much Saturday at midnight, just being gutted, right? I mean, Richie, to your point, Sean, I'll wrap up, the question with this. I dare to say that Richie most likely at this point in time is the last of the true collegiate athlete that stays with a team for 4 years. We saw him grow. We saw him develop. We saw him improve. We saw him through downs. We saw him get back up. We saw through the highs, and we saw him go from, a solid recruit to a potential NBA draft pick. And so a sea of emotions, very much surrounding the basketball program this weekend.
So for this team to excel without Richie, what does it look like? How do you have to fill in the blanks? Because we've talked really all year long as this season has taken shape about how, man, you've got these stars in the lineup, and that starting lineup, when they're humming, they're as good as anybody. But then the depth took a hit, and you have come on multiple times and said, some of these guys that are on the bench, we thought they'd be bigger contributors, and they're just not really coming through right now. Now you got to lean on those guys a little bit more. So what does it look like for this team to try to compensate for the absence of such a good player in Richie Saunders?
Well, they went from, the Three Musketeers to now truly going, into Batman and Robin, Batman and Superman, Kobe and Shaq, Michael and Scotty. I mean, you name it, right? I mean, you go with, Sean and James. I mean, whatever you guys want to call it, right? I mean, it's going to be the AJ and Rob Wright the third show, right? And so, and I think at this point in time, what you do is there's a couple of things that I would do if I was getting paid, the millions of dollars that the coaching staff is. There's two paths that I would take. The first path is I would actually start Alexei Kostic because he knocked down a big three, late in the game on Saturday. And I would say, Alexei, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Forget about Petrovic. Forget about Tony Kukoc or Krasimir Ćosić. It's Alexei's world, and we all live in it. And I would try to, put him up on a pedestal like he can do no wrong. Either him or Tyler Murruff, right? One of the two transfers. And I would say, Tyler, you're the greatest Tyler we've ever had. We never heard of Tyler Hawes. That doesn't matter now. You're the man. I would figure out a way to put one of these two dudes on a pedestal and just pump them up with confidence because they're just not shooting the ball well right now. And as a shooter, I can tell you that all you need is just to see one go in, and maybe that sparks that confidence. The other thing that I would do is potentially go with Hadim, who is a more physical guy on the lineup, and say, good luck. You now have to figure out a way to be, Bruce Bowen 2.0, Kawhi Leonard on defense, and we need Dennis Rodman on offense. And now, is there a fair thing to ask for a freshman? Definitely not. But, Sean, this team has now a handful of guys plus Keba that are dealing with season-ending injuries. Nate Pickens was supposed to be the backup point guard, done for the year. Brody Kozlowski was supposed to be the backup four-man and knock down three-pointers, done for the year. Dawson Baker was supposed to be the sixth man for this team, done for the year. Xavier Stanton was supposed to be a backup the backup big, right? And then they went out and had to get Beto because, he was injury prone. And now Richie Saunders with an ACL injury. And then Kemba has been dealing with a hand injury, as Kevin Young acknowledged on the post game on Saturday. And so, Fort Minor said, it's 10% luck, right? I mean, 15% skill, power of will, a little bit of pleasure, and the rest of it is pain. And so, I mean, my goodness, this BYU team just has been plagued by injuries. But again, when you have, the number one recruit in the country, I am going to go on an irrational confidence and say AJ DeBonsa is going to lead these guys to a Sweet 16. And I know it's a crazy thing to say, but, like Repeat Chief, the little rat in Narnia says, we have nothing if not belief.
Is that enough? A Sweet 16 for a squad that came in with as much hype as any team in the Big 12 and almost any team in the country right now. Now, given the context of everything you just went through, a decimated roster, losing somebody as important as Richie Saunders, a Sweet 16 run would be, I think, a pretty remarkable feat. But relative to the early season expectations, will it be considered enough?
And I think that's the key word that you literally just said right there. Given the context, if Richie was involved, I would say getting to the Elite Eight would have been the minimum, right? I don't know about going to the Final Four, but going to the Elite Eight would have been maximizing their ceiling of like 99.9%, right? Kind of like on Top Gun Maverick, when he gets to the 10, he goes, I'm going to go a little bit more, and everything blows up. And so, but given the context, if this team gets to the Sweet 16, I consider, a marvel in terms of BYU basketball accomplishments because, my gosh, they just have been, to your point, Sean, they've been depleted due to injuries.
So in a situation like this, in the system that we all live in right now, right? I mean, I hear a lot more from the Utah fan than I do the BYU fan. And the Utah fans right now in basketball world are seeing a really, really tough season unfold. And they're also looking at it and like, well, how are we going to catch up with Kansas and BYU and all these people are spending so much money. If it doesn't bear fruit when you make this kind of financial, emotional resource investment, I mean, they put a lot of energy into this roster in particular. And if it doesn't bear meaningful fruit in terms of a conference championship or a deep run in the tournament, is there buyer's remorse there? Or is it like hey, well, we just got unlucky. We got to do it all again and maybe add even more to the investment?
So perception is reality. And the perception, given the context, will be that, these guys, unfortunately, had a wave of bad luck, and I think that's a fair thing to say. Now, two things can be true at the same time, Sean. There can be a little bit of buyer's remorse, and there can also be the fact that maybe you have to try this again one more time. I just don't know if BYU is going to land back-to-back a player of AJ's magnitude, right? There are talks about BYU recruiting some high-level five-star McDonald's All-American recruits right now, but it's kind of not the same lens as AJ DeBonsa. I mean, AJ has been talked as, one of the greatest, potential players in quite some time. And so will BYU ever land another player of that magnitude? I'll say this: they can get another AJ before we ever see another Jimmer. And this is not a knock on AJ, but a lot of the stars had to align for BYU to get AJ, to get this team. And so I think that this is one of those things that you have to have a little bit of both, where we have to invest like this again to win at this level again. And at the same time, you're like, geez, we spent almost $20 million on this roster. How much is it going to be enough to be able to get to this point again?
Because you brought up Jimmer again, it's not a fair thing to do when you look back at someone who had a career pre-NIL and say, oh, what would that guy have made? But Jimmer would have broken the internet. He did break the internet. He would have been able to cash in on breaking the internet. Look, you would have made good money. A lot of the BYU football guys would have made good money. But I would say that of everyone we've seen come through this state at either school, Utah or BYU, Jimmer would have been the biggest NIL athlete that we've ever seen or had, and he would have been like pushing for the biggest nationally.
Oh, I will say this. It wouldn't surprise me if Jimmer, by the end of his junior year, would have gotten, $3 or $4 million in NIL. Now, I will say that everything happened in the middle of his senior year, and what I can tell you is, in terms of commercials and that sort of thing, yeah, Jimmer would have pushed over 10 million easily. Oh my goodness. I mean, everything he was doing, KD tweeting that he was the greatest scorer in the world, and Nelly talking about him, and if there was a little bit of a buzz now, take this with a grain of salt, right? But there was a little bit of buzz nationally last year with Richie and the whole thing about tater tots, right?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't Jimmer-esque, but there was a little bit, right? It was kind of tiptoeing on the national waters. If Richie got that, can you imagine the amount of money that Jimmer would have made in February and March and April around the NCAA tournament? It would have been wild.
It would have been one of those things that we saw with the college football playoff where, Trinidad Chambliss was on commercials that played during the breaks of games that he was playing in. You would have had that exact same thing with Jimmer, where you're watching Jimmer play for BYU. They cut to commercial for a TV timeout, and there's Jimmer like in a McDonald's or Sprite commercial or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was surreal, and at the beginning of the season, Sean, I had a back and forth, with another media member, where I said, if BYU gets to the Final Four and AJ is leading the charge to be the Naismith Player of the Year, that would reach bigger heights than Jimmermania did. I will say, and I wouldn't say that this is buyer's remorse, none at all, but I would say that woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? This is just one of those things that I don't think, unless BYU somehow gets to the Elite Eight, I don't think that this year's team, it's going to top what we saw in 2011 with Jimmermania.
Before I let you go, what do you expect from this team against Arizona? I mean, they're not the number one team in the country anymore, but they're still really dang good, and that's the next test for this BYU squad.
Yeah, what a relaxing week for BYU, playing at number 4 and then at home against number 6. So, talk about strong emotions, right after you just had, arguably your senior leader and captain and, the face of your program be done for the season. And so I think the Arizona game will be a little bit difficult, mainly because, BYU didn't adjust to Arizona until the end of the game. And I think a lot of it had to do with emotional push, right? So I actually see BYU losing to Arizona by probably about 15 or 20 on the road. I do see them beating Iowa State at home. I think it's going to be an emotional game. I think the Marriott Center is going to get involved. It's going to get loud. It's going to get, I think fans will push for that, and I will say this, if they kick me out of the game, they kick me out of the game. But if there is a TV timeout and the crowd is quiet, I'm telling you here, I'm going to go to half court and start getting Cosmo with me and start going, get up and get cheering, because BYU needs that game. BYU hasn't had a marquee win this year. And, what better way to have the marquee win, pretty much, a month before NCAA tournament, beating the number 6 team in the country at home. And so it's a big week for BYU. I don't think it's a make or break week from BYU, but if they don't, I don't want to say that if they don't win against Iowa State at home, all is lost, but I feel like winning against Iowa State can have a massive, significant impact on this season in a very positive way to a team that is desperate to get some good news.
Have we heard the last of the bleep the Mormons chants?
So I'll say this, right? And I I kind of have thick skin about this stuff because when I was to go to Air Force, when I used to go to Wyoming, I used to hear, he's illegal, get a visa, you know, let's deport him. I heard all of that. And I actually give a lot of credit to Utah fans. I actually had a brother-in-law that gave my picture, my wife's picture to the mosque, and thankfully they didn't say anything inappropriate, right? But nonetheless, they did use that, my senior year, but it was all respectful, right? And that's why I don't have beef against Utah fans unless someone, and you have radicals on both sides of the rivalry. Um, I have no problem whatsoever if someone wants to say, F BYU or, F the Cougars. I have no problem with that. Now, you know, Brian Santiago and Shane Reese and, President Dallin A. Chokes of the LDS Church probably would say, Jonathan, don't say that. But
we understand your point, yeah.
Right. On the context of sport, I'm okay with them saying F this school. My issue becomes when you say F the Mormons, and here's why. As a former Catholic, I have never heard in my life F the Catholics. My wife worked very closely with the Muslim community because of her career and educational choice. My wife has never heard F the Muslims in a public setting. So why is it okay F the Mormons? I don't care what the reason is. You don't hear F the Jews. And so, unfortunately, I don't think we've heard the last of it. We've heard the last of it. I think it will be said again. And again, say F BYU all you want. Say F JT for all I care. But I would definitely keep religion out of this.
Well, that's how I feel about it. I think that's the reasonable attitude toward it, and hopefully the Big 12 can figure out a way to penalize it. I'm not even a member of the LDS Church, and I probably get more bothered by it than you do, JT, because of all the things that you just said. Like you don't have to. You could talk as much trash as you want. All right, don't bring people's family into it. Don't bring people's religion into it, and you can say whatever you want. And that's just kind of like my stance on it. But we'll see how it plays.
Yeah, and I say with this, obviously, I wasn't happy when, my brother-in-law gave my wife's pictures. And again, these are pictures on a blog, right? Kind of blogging about our family and our adventures and early in our marriage. And, I wasn't happy about it. I'm not happy about it. He knows it. And whenever it comes up, he knows it, and I let him know it. But with that being said, I get it. I get when you say different things but religion and anything like that to me is a big no. And so, but it comes with the territory, right? They don't say things to people they like, or if could it be looking at something like, hey, this is this should be a symbol of we are really good. I think there are other ways that you can bother people without insulting them that way.
JT, always appreciate your time and your contribution to the show. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, guys, and thanks for having me.
That's Red and Blue with Jonathan Tavernari, brought to you by our friends down at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. If you need fleet vehicles, you got a business, and you're looking for vans or trucks, get down to Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Tell them OC sent you. Big discounts the more vehicles you buy. And also, they've got great deals on tires right now. You don't always think about this with dealerships, but they're going to beat the price on any 4 tires, and they're going to give you a $150 rebate on top of that. All right, the Daily Dump is coming. We have a lot to get to in the Daily Dump. Ari Timpkin's going to join us in hour number 3. Don't go anywhere. We're halfway through. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Look for the truck with the duck for your plumbing needs, your heating and air needs as well. You got a furnace problem? Not if you call the truck with the duck. You got a leak in your basement like I had a couple weeks ago? Not when you call Valley Plumbing. They'll take care of it quickly, easily, painlessly. You just send them the check.
Heating and air, too, of course. The furnace and AC. I mean, now you might be turning on your furnace and going, oh, crap, this doesn't work. I didn't know all winter.
If you're turning on your furnace for the first time in 2026, you're like the rest of us. And you're like, oh, wow, I should have replaced that air filter a long time ago. Anyway, check them out. All right, lots to get to in the Daily Dump. A lot of it Olympic. I was watching the giant slalom the other day, all right? And the Swiss in the men's giant slalom were 1, 2, and 3 in the standings going into the final run of the giant slalom, which, as all of you know, as big-time experts on giant slalom racing, it's like a combined – you get 2 runs, right? And it's the combination of your 2 runs. And it looked like the Swiss were going to go 1, 2, 3, sweep the podium. And then up on the top of the hill at the starting gate, waiting for the deet, 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 is a Brazilian. And I should ask Jonathan Tavernari about this, but to my knowledge, there's like one mountain peak in the whole nation of Brazil that gets snow on it sometimes. Brazil wins the gold. Did you see this race?
I missed the race, but I did hear about it. It's like, you know, we all think of Cool Runnings this time of year if you're a fan of that movie. Kind of a cliche at that point, but it almost feels like when the Jamaicans first fielded a bobsled team, right? It's like the Brazilian guy won the skiing event, gold.
And he won a gold. His name is Lucas Pinheiro Bratton. Okay,
shout out, JPB, of course. LPB. Excuse me.
Never before has anyone from South America even won a medal in the Winter Olympics. The entire continent was over in the Winter Olympics.
It's interesting because they do have big mountain ranges down there.
Chile's got big mountains,
but
Peru's got big, tall mountains, but I don't think it snows on top of them very often.
Yeah, maybe not a lot of snow, or maybe just not big skiers or snowboarders. I don't know.
Anyway, so I was all excited about this because, you know, we have a large Brazilian community in Utah, and, like, there's a ton of Brazilians in the MMA world. I was just like, what a wild thing. And then, this is what bugs me, man. He's actually Norwegian.
He lives in Brazil, but he's Norwegian?
No! His mom's from Brazil, so he gets to ski for Brazil. I've had this in the topics, the notes. James, you've seen me gloss over it. Like, I don't know how to feel about competing for a nation that is not actually your nation. It's like a loophole. You know what I mean? It's, oh, my grandma's from there. Oh, my parents are from there. And in the case of some athletes, they do it for commercial opportunities. Eileen Gu, who is an American, Bay Area, she has competed for China. Not because it's easier to make the Chinese team. She's, like, good enough to win gold medal like this guy did.
Yeah, she was one of the best when she started on USA skiing as an amateur, and she was one of the best on the USA team coming up. So.
She would have won medals for the U.S. and then decided to go compete for her mother's home country of China.
She at least lived there for a little bit, and she spent part of every year there.
Far be it from me. I'm not going to tell you not to identify with the nation where your parents are from. I'm just saying, like, for me, would I? It's not even possible because my Irish roots go so far back. But would I, if I was not good enough to make the U.S. team, but I was good enough to make the Irish team in something, would I want to represent Ireland in the Olympics? The answer to that is probably like, well, yeah. Because if it's the difference between being an Olympian or not, you go with being an Olympian. If it was one of those things where you were like, the Irish were just like, dude, we don't get a bunch of great track runners, and you somehow turned out to be fast. Will you compete for Ireland? We'll pay your way to everything. It'll be better for you commercially. I don't know if I love that, but
You'd still do it, though.
I'd probably still do it. I'd probably sell my soul.
Chris Kaman is, you remember the Clippers center?
The giant, scary caveman-looking guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the great stars, the other star from from that great 03 draft, not named Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron James. Anyway, I remember 08 Olympics, I think it was. He played with Dirk Nowitzki on the German team because his grandma is German.
Okay.
And obviously, I mean, Chris Kaman was a good NBA player, but he's
not going to make Team USA.
Yeah, he was not better than Dwight Howard and Chris Bosh and the other big men on Carlos Boozer, the other bigs that are on Team USA at that time. So he was like, you know what? I've got German heritage. I wonder if they'll let me play. And the Germans' only other good player at the time. They got a really good team now, but at the time was Dirk Nowitzki. They're like, yeah, we'll take a second NBA player. So this gone on for a long time, and there's been fishier connection or longer. Farther back connections like Chris Kaman and his grandma that have been allowed to compete on this. The interesting thing about Eileen Wu, and we won't get too in the weeds on this because sports show, but it's interesting that China doesn't allow dual citizenship, but they're just like, you're an American citizen, but absolutely you can win a gold.
Well, she's
for
also
us.
like a model, like you get special treatment when you're incredibly talented and also like attractive and. Yeah. Isn't she like a microbiologist or something? She's like an Ivy Leaguer of some kind. So when it's all going for you, it's
talented
all going
in
for
every
you.
way.
All right. Do you know who Stephen Bradbury is?
No.
Speaking of countries you don't often associate with success in the Winter Olympics.
Let me see. Nigeria.
Australia.
Oh, okay.
Did you see this? Short track speed skating, the Australian who won gold, his name's Stephen Bradbury. He made it to the qualifiers because of a crash. And then he won the gold medal because literally the entire field, the pack, the peloton on the short track skating, everybody wiped out in front of him. Every single person.
What a lucky guy.
No, so this is crazy because, of course, at face value, you're just like, oh, wow. Like, he had no chance of winning, and he just was there to be in the race, getting his participation trophy, and he ended up winning gold because of it. Turns out that this was a strategic thing for him because his own career has been plagued by bad luck and, you guessed it, crashes on short track speed skating. Many, many times. This is like his 5th Olympics, and many times he has been a favorite to at least compete for a medal, a favorite for a medal, going all the way back to like 1998, and he would crash or he would get injured by somebody else crashing and their skate slices his thigh open. Actually happened to him.
Oh my gosh.
So as he got a little bit older and realized these younger skaters were getting faster, his coach was just like, somebody finally came to him and was just like, look, man, you just need to stay in the race. You just need to like qualify barely. And if something can happen in front of you, hang back. And then on the final lap, you sprint, you try to get up there if you can, or you see if the traffic, because this happens a lot.
So they told him as a strategy, don't go right up next to the line. There.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. This was his strategy. And it played out in his final Olympics exactly how he wanted it to, exactly how he needed it to.
So he's simultaneously the unluckiest athlete in the history of the Winter Olympics, and in these Olympics, the luckiest one.
Yes, in these Olympics, he was in the medal rounds because of crashes, and he won the gold medal because of crashes. If it was just who's skating the fastest, he's not even making it out of qualifiers.
Yeah, if it was like, if they could be like an outdoor track, like sprinting, like sprinters are on, and you have lanes that you cannot cross on ice, he probably wouldn't win. But
correct,
because it gets really congested in there and guys crash. There are so many crashes in speed skating, by the way.
So many.
It's
kind of awesome.
I watched way more of it this weekend than I did in the rest of the days of the Olympics so far. And did you see the one with the Italian dude who who went through the finish line backwards because his skate got caught by two guys who got knocked out of the crash. His ankle, one of them hit into his ankle, and so he literally got turned around and had to go through the finish line backwards and was like 0.2 of a second behind the leader of the heat. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Awesome.
It's so good.
All right, James. Just on SportsCenter not too long ago, Ronda Rousey.
Yep.
Okay? Ronda Rousey's coming back. It was announced. You put it in your update.
I did.
That on MVP Promotions, which is Jake Paul. Everything coming up Jake Paul right now. His fiance just won a gold medal again.
And apparently she won. She stands to get a lot more endorsement money from Nike because she showed off her sports bra. So,
yes.
There's that.
Yeah. She's got like whatever it is, 6 million followers now. It's going to go up.
Yeah.
In any case, Jake Paul, I don't know how, I don't know why. He's very famous. He's very successful. He's very rich. He's got a company called MVP Promotions, which they've done boxing. He's promoted his own fights. He's promoted the Serrano sisters, who are some of the best female boxers on the planet. Now they're going to do an MMA fight between Ronda Rousey and a name that probably fewer people in the mainstream know, Gina Carano.
I was wondering if I had butchered her last name or if I got it or if I nailed it. I nailed it. So there you go.
Gina Carano is more famous now for being in The Mandalorian. She's crossed over into acting, and she actually got into a huge lawsuit with Disney because they basically fired her for expressing some of her beliefs about the COVID situation and all that. She sued them. She won, or I think they maybe settled. And in any case, now she's probably going to be back in the Star Wars universe. But, like, Gina was, at one point, the second best female fighter on the planet. Okay? This is pre-Ronda Rousey. This is pre-Amanda Nunes. This is in the early days of women's mixed martial arts. It was a woman named Christiane Cyborg Santos at the time. Now she's divorced Santos. It's Christiane Cyborg Justino. Anyway. And they were the first women to headline an MMA event. Those two. Main event in Elite XC. It's a big deal. Gina Carano is a very beautiful woman. She was the first MMA fighter with kind of like the sex appeal crossover mainstream thing. She was a big deal. That's how she got into acting. Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano, headlining apparently this event in May, and even ESPN's making a big deal out of it. Which, by the way, let me just air a grievance prematurely here. The PFL, we are actual broadcast partners with ESPN. This random one-off event is getting a lot more play than we ever will.
Which, by the way, is going to be on Netflix, not ESPN.
It's crazy. In any case, Ronda Rousey has not fought in 9 years. Her last fight 9 years ago, she got knocked out by Amanda Nunes. No shame in that. Amanda is the best female fighter ever. Gina Carano, take a wild guess at the last time she fought.
2012?
Her last fight was 17 years ago.
Oh, my gosh.
In 2009.
I was still in high school, OC.
Now, look, she's been very successful. She's done a bunch of, like, straight-to-DVD type movies. You know when Redbox was a thing?
Yeah.
A lot of her movies went to Redbox.
Or you know when Netflix wasn't just a streaming site?
Yeah. and then she had a couple bigger ones, right? She was like, she headlined a movie, and then she got into the Star Wars universe as like a former shock trooper turned rebel. Like, this is a big role. And then she went, you know, she got on the wrong side of Disney and the whole wokeness and all that stuff and ended up winning the lawsuit against them.
Now she's back.
And now she's potentially back. But instead, at 43 years old, she's going to fight Ronda Rousey.
How old's Ronda?
Ronda's got to be like 37, 38.
Yeah,
she's
I was
not
going to say
old.
she's close to 42.
And by the way, I don't know about Gina. I don't think Gina's Ronda's 39.
Okay.
Ronda's had a couple of kids since she last fought. The women out there listening could tell me. I have no idea, obviously, but like your body changes.
Yeah.
So that's always impressive when women after childbirth can come back and compete. We're seeing that in the Olympics. We're seeing that with this now.
Serena Williams did it famously.
Yeah, but like Ronda at 39 and Gina at 43, 9 years away and 17 years away from competition, are going to be headlining this event, allegedly. Do we believe that it's actually going to happen? 17 years away from competition, and all of a sudden you're going to come back and be the headliner? I don't know, man.
I mean, what are we? We're, I guess, exactly 3 months away from the fight. 3 months yesterday. Huh. Yeah, I was going to ask you, I didn't realize Gina had been that long away from competition. I knew Ronda Rousey had been a long time. I was going to ask you about, because Ronda Rousey, at least in the mainstream, for mainstream sports fans, that's one that we know. That's a name that we know.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, just how much you think she has left in her, but I guess there's not really a way to know because she hasn't fought in 9 years.
And here's the thing, right? I mean, this is like, now, make no bones about it. These are two of the four most important female fighters ever. Okay?
Ronda Rousey was like a phenomenon.
Two of the top five.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of like the history of the sport and things like that. And Ronda was probably the most important female fighter in MMA because she's the reason that the UFC adopted female mixed martial arts, right? So
she was like Mike Tyson, like always knocking people out and invincible until she wasn't.
Her place in history is secure, and she has done a better job than pretty much anyone in like transitioning out of the public eye and just having a good life. She and her former fighter husband had a couple of kids. They own a farm in California. They raise Wagyu beef together. And every quarter, she'll go and do like a WWE appearance, cash a big fat check, and then disappear again. And now she's back doing this.
She was during the height of her fighting career, she was in one of the Fast and Furious movies, right?
Yes,
like,
and she's been in the Expendables movie franchise.
So she's done some acting herself.
Terrible, terrible actress, but a lot of athletes are bad when they transition into acting. I don't know, man. It's really interesting that we've decided that now is the time to do this. I don't know. I'm a skeptic, and you don't know if she's got anything left in the tank, even if she beats Gina Carano, because Gina Carano has not competed for 17 years.
We don't know how good she is anymore. Yeah.
And she's 43, even if she's been training consistently. She's 43.
And just to be clear, because it's not very clear by the ESPN article, this is not a UFC fight. This is not a PFL fight. It's just it's a one-off MMA event.
It's MVP Promotions, which is Jake Paul's company with his business partner, Nikisa Badarian.
No league involved.
No league involved. It's just like, we're going to the Intuit Dome. We're going to sell probably 4,000 tickets to this thing because they're going to be too expensive. We're going to put it on Netflix. And out of pure curiosity, most MMA fans in the world are going to tune in.
Are you going to tune in, if it happens?
I can't help. It's like the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. You can't look away. I'm not going to pretend I'm not going to watch, even though I'm embarrassed by the thing happening. Combat sports are so weird because we don't do this in any other sport. Nobody's like, live on Netflix, Michael Jordan playing one-on-one basketball against someone who's been out of the league for 10 years. Carlos Boozer.
Carlos Boozer.
Like,
I was going to say Michael Jordan versus Victor Wembanyama.
Like, why? Wait, why? And actually, Michael Jordan, people would watch that, right?
Yeah.
Gina Carano has been gone 17 years, and I love Gina. All respect to Gina. Gina is not Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I don't know, Sean Kemp playing one-on-one. You're like, what? Why did we bring this? Why have we dusted this one off?
One of Sean Kemp's children. His many children playing against Michael Jordan.
Anyway.
Ronda Rousey is definitely the Michael Jordan of that pair, but you've educated me. Gina Carano
She was a
was
big
great
deal.
once upon a time.
She
and
was a very big deal for
I
a
didn't-
brief time.
I didn't realize that was her in The Mandalorian either. So, yeah.
Cara Dune is the name of the.
Yeah.
Also, just rough acting. Rough actor. Look, love Gina. Okay.
You had a chance to meet her?
Yes, I have a great Gina story. I'll tell you off air.
All right.
And just not a great actress. Maybe still a great fighter? Question mark. We hope. Anyway,
This
I will say this: very principled person. If you go look up like her feud with Disney, whether you agree with her views or not, I mean, she walked away from being in Star Wars basically voluntarily to stand by her principles. There's not a lot of people that are willing to do that. Also, she was offered a fight allegedly in the UFC for $1 million. Didn't like the way that Dana White spoke to her specifically. Thought that he was disrespectful to her. Thought they didn't respect women. Walked away and said, no, I'm not dealing with a person like that. So she's principled, whether you agree with her principles or not. She's at least that. Anyway, we're over time here. Ari Temkin's going to join us at the top hour number 3, so we'll double up here. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, I lied to you. Ari Temkin's going to join us at 1:30, not at 1 o'clock, which is just passed. A perfect time right now to give us some Olympic updates. James Peterson's got a curling update, which, by the way, is actually like a lot of these specific sport update things we do them kind of tongue-in-cheek, but this one is actually really, really fascinating what's going on in the curling world right now, because you wouldn't think of this as a place where, like, rules are bent and cheating is rife, but we'll get there. If you're looking for a place to watch the Winter Olympics, Big Willie's is your home for the Winter Olympics. 1717 South Main, incredible food menu, incredible drink specials every single day, a pool hall. If you don't like the particular Latvian short program on the figure skating, fine. Just go shoot some pool until they're done. Come back in and watch the Olympics prime time down there at Big Willie's. Tell them OC sent you. And the beauty of it is, if you want to actually hear the commentary on the televisions, I don't know how they pulled this off, but somehow the acoustics down there make it so that there can be music on the jukebox that doesn't overwhelm the television volume. And, like, you can be in one corner hearing the commentary, being amazed by Mike Tirico's smooth, dulcet tones, and then you walk over, 20 feet away, and somehow that sound has faded out, and now you're able to hear the new screen's sound. I don't know how it works, but it does work. That's all I know.
We're going to have to ask Patrick about that. How'd you do that, Pat?
Guarantee he has no idea how it's done either. All right, I love me some Patrick. He's not a sound engineer. But, James, you serendipitously, you decided you wanted to be our show's curling expert, and I think we've got some good stuff you have to get into here.
It's been a pretty juicy curling Olympic cycle here, and it got even more entertaining off the ice. Canada is cheating, OC.
Yeah.
Both the men and women, by the way. Canadian curl and no mixed doubles cheating was reported, so they were clean in one division of things.
How does that make sense, though? If both the men and the women are cheating, and then you put the men and the women together, and then they're doing it honestly?
Yeah, I don't know. There had to have been something we missed in mixed doubles, but that part of the competition is over. We got men's and women's going on side by side here. So Friday was when the men's controversy happened. They were playing the Swedes, and just a little background on Canada versus Sweden in recent Olympics. So going back 12, 15 years now. Canada's always been good at curling. They've basically always medaled. There's only been 8 Olympic games that curling has been part of, and Canada's medaled in 6 of them, and they've won 3 golds. Sweden has medaled in the last 3, though. They're the defending gold medalists on the men's side of things. They're not going to make the elimination round this time. They've had a rough go of it in the round robin, but there's a bit of a rivalry there, right? So when they're facing off, it's more intense, because these are in the last few Olympics, these are the best 2 of the best 3 men's curling teams in the world. So Sweden's watching Canada closely because of that, and as they've been watching them, they've been like, there's a particular guy who is double touching when he throws the rock.
Okay.
When he throws the stone. Now, what's double touching? Well, it's what it sounds like. So when the guy who's kneeling down and throws the stone, right, you can touch the handle. You can take your hand off the handle and then go back and touch it before the green. They call it the hog line. You can do that as long as you do it before it crosses the green line. What you can't do is touch any part of the granite rock part underneath the handle. What this Canadian curler is doing, Mark Kennedy, he's throwing it, and then he's touching it with his finger, and there's some great memes with the Sistine Chapel, the finger of God touching the curling stone. It's just like that. He's touching it. He's touching the granite part, so that's a double touch. Now, it's really hard to catch this because the camera angles only show it's only the front of you.
Yeah, we watch curling all the time.
Right.
All of us are dedicated curling watchers, and the shot is shown from the like the goals perspective, right?
Yeah.
It's always the curler
There's
is
no-
coming at you head on.
On the broadcast, anyway, there's no
side view.
There's no side view right on the hog line, the pylon cam type thing, right? Well, because Sweden has been convinced that they're doing something, that they've been doing this and getting away with it, they had someone hold a camera down the hog line, the green hog line, to catch them in the act. And they did in this last match on Friday night. So they call him out on it. And this Mark Kennedy guy starts, you guys all saw it online, I'm sure, or live. He starts cursing the other guy out. F off, man. I've never done that. Which, by the way, very gentlemanly sport. There's no cursing. And in the Olympics, there's particularly guys who are mic'd up like the curlers are. No cursing because of that.
No foul language.
But even in like your local curling club, they frown upon any kind of foul language. So this is like a huge etiquette violation, the way this guy reacted after he was confronted by the Swedes, and he was wrong. So it's
Well, that's why he reacted so violently, because someone called him, I've never done that. What are you talking about? I've never done. It's like, if you have not done the double touch at a curtain, now, let me tell you, as a very experienced curler myself,
I'm clean. I've never double touched.
If someone's just like, I saw you double touch that thing, you just be like, get out of my face, man. I didn't double touch. What are you talking about? I'm a single touch guy. You know that about me. Like, get out of here, Joe.
In all aspects of my life.
Carl, get out of my face.
Magnus.
But the fact that he goes crazy,
yeah,
you've just incriminated yourself.
So that happens in men's curling, and I'll get to the alternate camera angle thing, and I'll get back to that in a sec. But then the very next day, OC, when the women are in their round robin, and I can't remember who the opponent was. I don't believe it was Sweden as well. But the Canadian woman who's throwing the rock, she gets caught with the same kind of double touch. Now, they didn't have this illegal alternate, shady alternate angle, so it's harder to tell. But the umpires, the officials officiating the event, probably because they were told to be on the lookout for this because of what happened the day before and with the men's Canadian team, they're watching the throws closer, and they caught her doing a double touch. Again, really can't tell from the video evidence on that one, but so it's like, okay, we'll just take the ref's word for it. But she was adamant that she didn't do it either. She said 0% chance, talking to her coaches and her teammates. Here's the thing that is so crazy about how the Kennedy guy, the men's curler, reacted. All the penalty is, OC, is that you can't count that stone. It's not like
that's it.
You don't lose the game automatically. You're not disqualified. You just can't count the stone.
Hey, you got to redo that one. What now?
Well, no, like you can't redo it. It's just you lose a stone, which is losing a scoring chance, losing a chance to not to take points away from the other team. Sure, but you get like 7 or 8 stones per end.
So this is one of these beautiful things that can send you down a rabbit hole in an obscure sport, and outside of the Olympic Games is an obscure sport. So I'm wondering to myself, how big of a deal is it for someone to just like, it's literally just his index finger, right?
And he's not like, it's not like bending back. He doesn't have his whole index finger. It's just the tip of his index finger.
Honestly, it seems more like kind of an OCD type thing than anything. Like he believes he's getting some kind of advantage by double touching, because I can't imagine one tiny little fingertip touch for the smallest fraction of a second is actually altering the trajectory of the stone, which, by the way, you just released, like just barely released. It's already on its way, right? So anyway, I'm like, how? And so I had to remind myself, how heavy is a curling stone? How much can one little fingertip worth of pressure for that long do? And so I looked it up. Okay, how heavy is a curling stone?
So now you're a physicist.
Do you know how heavy a curling stone is?
I do not. Oh, wait, do you want kilograms or pounds?
The weight range is 17.2 to 20 kilograms. 42 pounds is the Olympic standard. Okay. 19.1 kg.
Oh, is there a deflate gate?
No.
Controversy
Now,
with
but
this
this is
too?
what it does. I'm like, okay, if I do one tiny little fingertip on a stone, is it going to really change things all that much? And I get it. It's a game of precision. And so maybe it does. I don't really know. But it sends you down this rabbit hole. Do you know that all curling stones come from the same place?
I actually did know this. My wife looked it up as we were watching this weekend and informed me of this. It's in Scotland.
Yes,
right?
it's an uninhabited island off the coast of Scotland.
All they do is manufacture curling stones.
It's literally just a giant chunk of granite that actually kind of looks like a curling stone.
Okay.
And the granite there is particularly dense and impermeable to water, which is why it's perfect for curling stones.
I mean, that makes sense. A granite island would be impermeable to water, you would think.
But, it's why we use granite countertops, because it's not very porous. Well, this is it's called blue hone, and it's particularly dense, even more than other granites, so no water's getting in.
It's not just all the Olympic stones. I think every curling stone in the world you could go. I'm sure we have some kind of curling club here in Utah as big of winter sports.
100% we do. It's out at the Kearns Oval.
That's what I thought. You go to that. You go to the Utah Curling Club or whatever it's called, and the granite from in those stones will be granite from this island.
Blue hone stone from Ailsa Craig, as it's called. It's just curling stones, a bunch of seabirds, and there's one thing called the Ailsa Craig Castle that I looked it up.
Where they make the stones?
No, I looked it up. It's a 16th century stone ruin that is about as big as this studio. That's the castle. So obviously there was some hermit that wanted to be far away from everyone else, who moved himself to this island and erected a tiny little stone house that became known as the castle.
Is he the Ailsa Craig of?
I have no idea.
Is it an island named after him?
I have no idea.
But
anyway, it sends you down this weird rabbit hole on curling. And then if you really spend too much time, you find out what the other ones are in speed skating and in the bobsledding situation.
Did you see they did the sideline reporter or whatever equivalent at one of the ice sheets where they do speed skating and figure skating? She told the story of what they have to do. Like, the ice has to be different for figure skating than it does for speed skating, like drastically different. So what they have to do to prepare the ice for figure skating, and then if there's always speed skating and figure skating on the same day, what they do to prepare it for speed skating. That was fascinating too. It's the ice is thinner and more and harder for speed skating because that you get faster on that.
Makes sense.
Figure skating, they like it softer
so they can land
for their better landings.
Okay,
right?
Little cushion in the landing.
Yeah.
You want a more forgiving ice sheet?
So the ice is colder for speed skating than it is for figure skating.
Wow.
And anyway, that'll send you down a rabbit hole too.
Amazing. So what we've seen, by the way, Ilya Malinin right now is talking to Mike Tirico, the quad god, who had just a disastrous free skate.
Yeah.
Terrible.
What did he finish? 8th?
Finished 8th as the favorite.
And he's been talking about how he's gotten a lot of hate online.
Don't hate on the guy.
I'm sure that's what they're talking about.
Also,
right now.
Isn't he like 22 years old or something?
Yeah,
he's not even that old.
Hey, Poverty's nerfed, all right?
He's got 2 more Olympic Games to come. Stop it, people. Let's be nice. We're going to care about this guy again in 4 years for 2 weeks.
He's going to be doing quad godlike for a while now, all right?
He's going to have to be called the quad demigod until he actually
gets back to
Okay, this is
Herculean story there.
This is actually a little bit more serious. I don't know if you saw this.
Can I just say one more thing about this cheating controversy
in curling
for the curling? So does this not, the additional camera angle, does it not make you think of the New York Jets 2007? They exposed Spygate. Maybe it's just me. But if you know about that story, how Spygate became known to the world, Eric Mangini, the coach of the Jets at the time, former Patriots assistant, he spent so long coaching with Bill Belichick that he knew his tricks. He knew that they were filming the other team's sidelines during games. So he sets up like a sting he and the Jets set up like a sting operation with the NFL at the beginning of that 2007 season where the Patriots almost went perfect, right? And almost just ran over the entire league in the regular season, including the Jets. And he tipped off NFL security. They went and grabbed the guy during the Jets game, right? The reason this reminded me of that is because the Swedes are also like, these guys are cheating, all right? And someone finally needs to get Canada on this. So instead of there already being a camera set up and having security take down the cameraman, they put up their own camera, which is the only camera that has a different angle for curling to show unequivocally the guy still got his finger on the stone right after he releases it. I mean, just incredible. For me, it was a nice callback to the Spygates.
My problem is, if you're Canada, why you're not just saying that this is an unsanctioned camera. This is Sweden.
Yeah, this is illegal.
I'm just like, AI, dude. That's it. That's fake.
Yeah.
Just go with the Donald Trump defense. Like, that's not real.
It's all fake. And apparently, because the curling's actually been a lot of fun to watch beyond the actual competition, because you can hear everything that they say to each other, right? And so the Swedes are like, a couple of the teammates are like, he did it again kind of thing. And you don't know what they're talking about because this hasn't been exposed yet. And you hear the guy say, it's okay, Magnus is recording. And you're like, okay. And now we know, they're talking about how it's all right. They're not going to get away with it. We're going to catch them in the act. So it just incredible curling controversy between two curling rivals. Unfortunately for Sweden, even if they had won this match, they weren't going to advance to the elimination round. It's been a rough round robin round for them. And they lost again today. Do you want to hear the updated standings, OC?
Okay.
Men's standings, Switzerland is leading, tied with Canada at the top of the table, if you will. Norway is next. Team USA, Great Britain tied for 5th at 4-3. And then we get to the guys who are 500 or worse: Italy, Germany, China, Sweden, and Czechia. So Sweden way down there. Possibly why they're a bit more heated about this, I would think. See, and then on the women's side, Team USA doing a little bit better than USA men are. They're tied for 2nd at 5-2. Sweden 6-1 at the top there. Canada right behind Team USA at 4-3. And then you got a bunch of teams under 500: China, Great Britain, Italy, and Japan. So there you go. It looks to be Team USA probably in the elimination round for both men and women, but USA men kind of on the bubble there. So something to watch there.
Did you hear about the T-shirt controversy from the Milano Cortina Olympics? Excuse me.
I missed it.
Okay, this is actually pretty messed up and shows you how hypocritical the Olympic committees can be and how poor communication can be back and forth. So remember the Ukrainian skeleton sled racer that was not allowed to compete because of his helmet that memorialized fallen athletes that have died in the conflict since Russia invaded Ukraine, right? No like words on there, just the faces of athletes who are now deceased because of the conflict, right? Well, then they allowed somebody to compete in a Marvel Venom helmet. I don't know if you saw that. Like the Marvel character Venom, the Spider-Man villain with the giant teeth. That was okay. And a lot of people are just like, well, that's lame. But remember, it's like, that's not political. It's just Venom. It's a made-up character, whatever. But this is genuinely bothersome to me. The official Olympics shop has right now something called the Heritage Collection on it. I'm looking at it right now. And I'm actually a little bit bummed out that I'm not finding any stuff from the 2002 Olympic Games. But you can go find yourself like Atlanta 1996 T-shirt, Los Angeles 1984. You want something from Barcelona 92? They've got you covered there. The Heritage Collection stuff. It's like throwback Mitchell & Ness brand merchandise from previous Olympics. Well, and this tells you a lot about where we're at in the world today. The hottest seller from this bad boy happened to be a T-shirt from the 1936 Berlin Olympics, which are more colloquially referred to as the Nazi Olympics. That was the Adolf Hitler hosted 1936 Olympic Games.
Like right before he invaded Poland, basically.
Like right before it all kicked off.
Yeah.
And World War II became a thing in Europe. This was like, there were Nazi banners and flags hanging up at the Olympic ceremonies.
Yeah, he'd been in power a couple of years. Yeah.
It was a big, big, big deal. And obviously this is where Jesse Owens became even more of a legend and things like that, because he went over there and disproved all the theories of Aryan superiority by dominating in the track and field events.
You liked the rowing movie that Disney just made? It's that same Olympics.
Oh, that's right. Boys in the Boat.
Boys in the Boat.
It's a great movie, by the way, but awesome book. But in any case, the Olympics, they're just like, yeah, we're going to sell this. It is undeniably a very, very political choice to sell that particular T-shirt, because it's not like they sold one for every games.
Yeah, Salt Lake's missing. Come on now.
They didn't have every single past Olympics. And I'll be honest,
Athens from 1890.
It's a pretty aesthetically cool-looking shirt. It's got the statue with the laurel wreath kind of like headpiece. It's got the Olympic rings at the top. It's got the Brandenburg Gate. I mean, it's a cool-looking T-shirt. And the heavy subtext of it is not put on the T-shirt, but everybody who bought one of those shirts knows exactly what they're doing, right? And they're profiting off it. They're selling these bad boys for $50 a piece. That's political. That T-shirt is political, but the helmet was disallowed. A little hypocrisy there, IOC. I don't like it.
There was a ton of, and I can't remember the event right now, but there was a ton of like hand-painted helmets I saw. It might have been one of the bobsledding events.
Bobsledding, they were wearing them. The downhill ski racing, they were wearing them. The woman from Italy wore the tiger helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, like a one that's about a war that is controversial in many parts of the world, right? Sure, I can see how you can stretch that to be a political thing, even though it doesn't mention the war. It's just him trying to use his platform to bring attention and remembrance to these people that he reveres, right? His countrymen that he reveres that unfortunately lost their lives. But I still don't agree that that's political, but I can see how they would stretch that to do that, and that's completely different than some of these other hand-painted helmets we saw, but it's still just like, if you're going to ban a particular hand-painted helmet, why not just ban all of them? I don't, it's just not a great look to be so selective, so subjective on what you allow and what you don't.
All right, got to take a quick one here. We're going to come back with Ari Temkin, Tune In Radio, Big 12 Today. The Big 12 basketball world is wild right now. Who's the best team in the conference? Who's the actual best team? Who's going to win Big 12 basketball championship? Before we even get to the tournament, we'll discuss that and much more with Ari Temkin in 3 minutes. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. We're going to get Ari Temkin on here in just a second. The world of realignment never slows down in college sports. I'm sure you saw over the weekend that Sacramento State is joining the MAC, climbing the ladder from the FCS up into Division I football, and paying a heck of a lot of money to do so. They've got to pay an $18 million entrance fee, $6 million of which is due this year. They take no revenue from the MAC, which doesn't exactly have huge revenue anyway, and they have to pay for visiting teams to fly to California to play them because the MAC, of course, is a Midwestern league. And so Sac State was like, yeah, we'll pay for you to fly out here. They must have some kind of billionaire donor I'm not aware of at Sacramento State because financially it seems like it doesn't make a ton of sense. Although, I don't know, maybe if you jump in and somehow qualify for a playoff berth, even then, how would that – it doesn't make sense. Shaquille O'Neal is their acting basketball GM. I'm sure he puts a lot of hours a week into that job. Anyway, realignment, it never stops, baby. College sports never stops. Our next guest is a big friend of the program. He's joined us through all of football season and now basketball season. Ari Temkin, coming off the long weekend. Welcome, Ari. How are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Doing all right. Sac State to the MAC. React.
I can't believe Brennan Marion would leave Sac State to become the offensive coordinator of Colorado, and all this time he could have led Sacramento State into the MAC. You know, it felt, all joking aside, like the MAC was kind of the one conference that was never going to give in, was still going to be regional. I mean, it's like perfect in terms of the composition, and now they've, I guess for survival, have gone well beyond that Ohio, Illinois region all the way to Sacramento, California. So, like, the MAC was great because we knew it. We've seen it. I mean, we knew Toledo and Akron and Northern Illinois and, you know, Eastern Michigan. And, I mean, like, we've always known the geographic spot and footprint, and it feels like the one that's kind of always stayed true. And yet now here we are with all of those regions in Michigan and Illinois and Ohio and California.
Very strange. Very strange indeed. But let's talk about the Big 12 conference. The Big 12 basketball conference is drunk and needs to go home. Even at the top, you've got all these really good teams, Houston, Arizona, Iowa State, Kansas, all in the top 10 right now. Texas Tech and BYU are top 25 teams. And you've got, the West Virginia Mountaineers causing problems for a couple of folks. TCU will harass and harangue you every now and again. Who right now, though, is the best team? Is there a clear best team in the Big 12?
No, I think one thing that's clear is there's a best five, and depending on where the teams play is going to go a long way in deciding who wins the game. I mean, home court advantage is very real in college basketball, and I've said all season, like, you got to take care of business at home, win your home games, and then split on the road to give yourself a chance to win the Big 12. And I think what we're seeing is that playing out in real time right now. I love the way the Big 12 has backloaded its schedule because we're getting seemingly Final Four matchups every night. We had Michigan, or rather Houston and Iowa State last night, which was incredible, lived up to the billing. And then, we get Arizona and Houston on Saturday, and then Arizona turns around on Monday and goes to Allen Fieldhouse. So, just when you thought you had the whole thing figured out, it goes in a completely different direction. The top five teams of the Big 12, Texas Tech, Houston, Kansas, Iowa State, and Arizona. They have combined, those five, to go 70-0 outside Quad 1. All five of those are also top 16 in the net and top 16 in the Ken Palm. The ACC, the SEC, and the Big East combined have five teams in the top 16 of the Ken Palm and top 16 of the net. The Big Ten is the only conference that comes close. They have five teams in the top 15 of those two categories. But I would say that the Big 12 is still better due to the fact that Michigan State, and Illinois all have losses outside of Quad 1. They have losses in Quad 2. Again, the top five teams of the Big 12 are 70-0 against Quad 2, Quad 3, and Quad 4 opponents. So, there's a ton of ways to spin it, but this conference is loaded. It's perfect the way this thing has, shaken out in terms of the schedule with it being backloaded. And I don't think these losses hurt the Big 12 in the same way they might have maybe earlier this season. Like, I don't think Houston losing last night hurts them, especially given Houston just wants to get to the South region to play Sweet 16 and Elite Eight games in Houston. So, as a 2 seed, they're fine in that South region. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to see a lot of this. And, I guess I could say that OC, until somebody else wins it, Houston's won this conference 2 years in a row. So I'll go with them. But, I mean, they look beatable. They obviously lost last night. And, we've seen Iowa State and Kansas split their home and home. Arizona's now lost 2 straight. Texas Tech. This stat is incredible. Duke, Houston, and Arizona have 6 losses total on the season. Texas Tech has given those 3 teams half of their total losses. So those are 3 enormous wins that Texas Tech has, including on Saturday at Arizona. So that's just kind of the way it goes right now in the Big 12. It is loaded, especially at the top.
All right, Tim, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. What can you get out of claiming national supremacy in college hoops? Obviously, for the Big Ten and the SEC, battling it out to say they're the kings of college football, that has a certain amount of power and financial, gain from having that status. In college hoops, what can the Big 12, if you can successfully win a national championship, position yourself as the now crowned kings definitively of college hoops, what can it do for the conference in a big picture standpoint?
It's a great question. And, I think the short answer is I'm not really sure. Longer answer, though, I mean, it obviously doesn't mean a ton relative to football because we know that football is driving the bus. But what I can tell you is that, this freshman class is absolutely loaded, especially in the Big 12 when you look at A.J. Devonta and Darren Peterson and Koa Pete and Kingston Flemings. And I do think that playing in the best league in America means something to incoming freshmen. I mean, that's not going to change next year. Kansas, is in very much so and is the favorite, it appears, to land Tyron Stokes as the number 1 player in next year's class. So I think, like, big picture, OC, it definitely shows, the ability for this conference as a whole to sell to freshmen, stud, NBA going freshmen, that you can come to the Big 12 and play in the second best league in America besides the NBA. Aside from that, it'll be very interesting to see how the TV ratings shake out. I'd imagine last night's Big Monday did a really big number. The college basketball right now is seeing incredible growth year over year in terms of their audience. And the NBA is almost having the inverse, and I think those two things could be related. I think there are a lot of people that have tuned in to watch college basketball this year, given how good the freshman class is. And again, a lot of that's centered on the Big 12. So, yeah, I mean, look, this is a conference that historically was carried by Kansas and that brand. And, now when you look at Arizona has a huge brand and so they bring that to the table. But then beyond that, I mean, you've got great basketball. Iowa State is a consistent winner in basketball. Texas Tech has been a consistent winner in basketball. Houston under Kelvin Sampson has been a consistent winner in basketball. So, I think you sort of have a combination of great brands that are going to draw huge audiences in conjunction with, 3 elite programs right now at sort of the pinnacle of their success.
How big a loss is Richie Saunders for BYU in your opinion?
Oh, it's huge. It's going to completely sabotage their season. I mean, and you have to mention that in conjunction with the fact that this team had depth issues. They are 351st in bench scoring, BYU. There's 363 teams in Division I. They're 351st in bench scoring. So, this was an issue before the Saunders injury. They were a big 3 and couldn't really get much scoring outside of it. Now they're a big 2. I also think, Kevin Young's got to figure out some things defensively with his program in this offseason because, once again, this is a team that needs to score 80, 90 points to consistently win. And Saunders is a guy that very underratedly was averaging just less than 2 steals per game this season. So, whatever you had on defense, which wasn't much, Saunders was giving it to you. So, yeah, I mean, and that, not to even mention the leadership, the fact that, he's been around the program as long as he has, all that stuff is irreplaceable. So, just a devastating loss for BYU and what's been, a pretty disappointing season.
When we talk about whether or not the the disappointment of the season is something that changes strategy? I mean, it's not just a BYU question. It's for every team that swings big from an NIL standpoint, recruiting transfer portal standpoint, whatever, and it doesn't bear the fruit that you hope that it would. And again, not just BYU basketball. We see teams do this. Texas Tech did this in football. They made it to a playoff and had a disastrous showing in that playoff. What is the response to that disappointment, you think, for most of these teams in the Big 12, especially the Big 12 teams that don't have the same level of financial windfall coming from a conference television rights deal?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think, look, specific to BYU, we know that BYU has spent a lot of money on its roster, and these last 2 years they've kind of crashed at the biggest moments of the season. I still think Kevin Young's a really good coach. I just think culturally speaking, he's got to change. I think he's got to take a long, hard look at this program in the offseason and figure out a way to get them, more physically and more defensive oriented from a cultural standpoint. Because, again, when I watch Houston and BYU, even with BYU at full strength, it's a tie game coming down the stretch, and who's going to win because one team just has a culture of physicality and defense, and the other does not. And it's an offensive team, and that's just the culture that they have. So I think Kevin Young's a hell of a coach. I think he's going to be successful. I think he's going to be, a coach that could win a national championship at BYU. But they've got to figure out defense because you can't be that bad on defense and expect to win 6 games in the NCAA tournament. I think with everybody else, I mean, K-State's a good example here. K-State has spent a ton of money on their roster, and it has not been very fruitful for them, to say the least. And so now they're going to be spending close to $19 million to buy out Jerome Tang the rest of his contract after giving him an extension after his first year when he went to the Elite Eight. Kansas is having success in the portal this year, but when you look back the last couple of years, they've been hugely disappointing from a roster management talent standpoint. They've had a lot of talent. They haven't gotten the buy-in. I mean, they had so much talent last year, and that team was super disappointing. This year was the exact opposite. Melvin Council's a guy that sort of came out of nowhere and, has become like a cult hero for this team. So, look, you're going to get bites at the apple. You're going to swing and miss. There's all different components that go into success, and we obviously know that in covering athletics. It takes more than just skill and talent to be good. There's got to be, a level of buy-in. There's got to be the right pieces have to fit. So, again, it's not just a straight line between, spending and winning. You've got to spend the right way. And I think we're seeing some coaches and teams that are doing it and some that aren't.
You mentioned Kansas State, and yes, they're on their way to a potentially expensive legal battle. For those who are just tuning into the Kansas State drama, they have fired their head coach, Jerome Tang, for cause. And Tang and his attorneys say, me ranting in a postgame about how these players need to do better is not cause for a firing. How long, complicated, et cetera, could this situation get? I mean, what do you think the ultimate outcome is?
Yeah, the ultimate outcome here is that Jerome Tang gets paid every single dollar that he's owed, and Kansas State should probably limit the amount of egg on its face, and they should look across the state at my alma mater and the mistakes that they made under Jeff Long with David Beatty as evidence of why they shouldn't drag this out. If you recall, when Jeff Long, who for my money had the worst tenure of any athletic director in the history of the Power Five when he was at Kansas, I mean, just look at his wake of destruction and ineptitude in 3 years as the administrator AD at Kansas. But I digress. He wanted to hire his buddy Les Miles. He wanted to fire David Beatty and didn't want to pay the buyout. And so he thought he'd get cute and creative and fire him for cause. And, they tried to basically say that, he was cheating. They self-reported cheating, and that wasn't even a fireable for cause offense. So basically this thing played out legally. They still had to pay the full buyout. They had to pay their lawyers. Then in the court of public opinion, they looked atrocious. They had egg on their face. So, I mean, there's just no way this ends with how K-State wants this to. I think what they had here is a president that simply did not want to pay $19 million to fire Jerome Tang, and they could not continue with Tang because of how bad it was this year. And so they were probably trying to find a way to at least get out of some of it and maybe negotiate a smaller buyout. But Jerome Tang has no reason to accept anything less than what he's totally owed, and that's why he hired Tom Mars, because that's exactly what he's going to get.
It's it's going to be interesting to see how that thing plays out. Ari, Arizona BYU tomorrow. Do the Cougs have a chance?
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime you've got a guy at the talent level of AJ DeManza and Rob Wright, you got a chance. But with Arizona coming off 2 straight losses, yeah, it feels like that's a slim chance. And, look, the style that Arizona plays, like it's antithetical to how modern basketball is played, right? Where teams are, pace and space and shooting threes. I mean, they are not a high volume, high percentage 3-point shooting team. They beat you with bully ball. They're physical. They win you on the glass. They win inside. That does not play well into BYU's weaknesses at all. We just talked about, how Houston just out physical them down the stretch, and it just feels like they need a team of more Kebaketas than they have. And so, I mean, they're going to get more of that from Arizona, and especially a team that's coming off 2 straight losses after starting the season 23-0. So you got a shot. You've got an NBA talent who's going to be the number 2 overall pick. I would imagine on your team, and Rob Wright is, I mean, he went for 39 or whatever the other night. So yeah, a shot when you got those 2 guys. But yeah, I just think the physicality, the rebounding, the defense is going to be too much and overwhelm BYU.
All right, it's always great picking your brain. Appreciate your time, sir.
Take care, OC. Be well, brother.
All right, Temkin, Big 12 today on TuneIn Radio. Really, really great encyclopedia of knowledge on all things college sports. And the Kansas State thing, we could have spent a lot more time on that today. We talked about it last week. Jerome Tang was like, hey, it's an embarrassment the way these guys are playing. You got to earn this uniform. All this, like, angry coach cliche stuff. Kansas State was like, well, it's not going very well. Let's use that as cause to fire him. He's owed like $14 million or something. Not smart. One last segment to come. A little crosstalk with Spence Checketts. What are we giving away this week? Breaking Benjamin is taking over the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater September 30th. We'll have a topical trivia question for you in order to give those tickets away. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Crosstalk brought to you by friends at Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100 for $2,500 off 10 windows or more. And the bonus is you get to support Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City, and his fast-growing company. They are really killing it, and it's because they take care of people who purchase their windows through Advanced Window Products. Lifetime warranty, no middlemen, no runaround. They just take care of it. All right, some Breaking Benjamin tickets. If you can tell me, 877-353-0700. In our Olympic special today, we talked about this exact factoid. How many Olympic gold medals have been won by athletes from the continent of South America? Ever. All-time Olympic history, how many Olympic medals have been won in the Winter Olympics by athletes representing countries on the South American continent? 877-353-0700. The Drive-In Spence Checketts coming up next, and he's here, if you are willing to believe it, in our Broadway studios.
Why would that not be believable? Isn't that just the rhythm of our station every day?
I think just people expect you to be doing cooler stuff than hanging out across the desk from me.
Than my literal job?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What would that look like? Because I wouldn't mind doing something cooler today, but
I don't know. I don't know. There's a bunch of 40-somethings winning Olympic medals. Why aren't we doing it?
So you were expecting me to call today and be like, hey, just got into the luge over the weekend. I'm headed to...
You seem more like a skeleton or a doubles luge guy to me.
Can I tell you? I was going to say, my favorite event now is the double mogul. Did you see that? The double mogul track? They're racing each other with moguls and, like, doing jumps off of moguls. Yeah. Dude,
you see how many people, like, missed the jump?
I tore my meniscus 2 years ago playing golf. And I'm watching these guys. I'm like, I would break both of them. I am wildly impressed. I mean, when I was skiing a lot, I could handle a few moguls. But I can't even wrap my mind around what those guys do, those men and women do with the double mogul tracks. That's my new favorite Olympic event by far. Crushed an aggressive amount of Olympic tape over the weekend. Your boy for Valentine's Day over here, a little Harmon's Hot Bar, a little date with Mike Tirico.
Okay.
So that was right. that was my Valentine's Day situation.
I like that.
Very enjoyable. Hey, the Harmon's Hot Bar is, don't knock on it until you try it. Okay, we got some lovely chicken, some vegetables.
You will never hear me say a disparaging word about Harmon's. It is the sophisticated man's grocery store.
Hot take, much better than Whole Foods. Give me Harmon's over Whole Foods all day. The Whole Foods Hot Bar, I better not say what I was about to say. Harmon's over Whole Foods is my hot take for the day today. But how was your weekend? You have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was good.
Good.
Yeah, I went down to St. George. I emceed a book release party. My best friend's little sister has put out it's a really amazing book.
What's it called?
It's called Unbreakable Soul.
Okay.
SOLE.
Give her some love.
And it's about, it's kind of like a self-help lessons learned through the trials of running a marathon, but also each mile is a portion of her life. It's just really well put together, really well done, very easily digestible. And she's not this is her only book.
Yeah.
It's really, I'm so impressed and proud of her for doing it. And I was happy to be part of the book launch, and it's really, really cool thing.
Tremendous respect, because I know you've done this too. I think most people, at least people that want to create, and I feel like, in our space, that's what we try to do. Whether or not we pull it off is up to discretion and the listeners. I've often thought I think it would be cool to actually sit down and write a book. But to actually do it, I mean, a ton of respect, because I know you've done it too. So did you say Unbreakable Soul?
Unbreakable Soul, SOLE.
Right. Good for her. That's awesome.
Yeah, really proud of her.
Did you consume any NBA All-Star Weekend festivities?
I was very pumped over the fact that the players seemed to care.
Yes.
I thought we talked about that. That was the opening of the show today. I thought that for me, look, there's issues in every sport. And right now, the issue for the NBA, I think, was the perceived apathy by the athletes, by the fan base.
Mm-hmm.
Because the cost of going to a game, the cost of taking your family to a game, grabbing a beer at a game, or just some popcorn, it's getting to be a situation where it is really inconvenient, even if you do well in life.
Yeah.
And when you feel like the athletes are sitting out, not because they need to, but because they want to, And when you tune in to watch them, and it's just like a little bit lackluster, and obviously there's all that conversation from the last couple of weeks about tanking, I thought that the NBA was coming up on kind of a serious perception problem, and this helped to put that at least on the back burner for the weekend.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of your the open and then the interview you did with Gordy, because I love Gordy. And I'll tell you what, this came down, in my opinion, and we'll talk about it on the show today, it came down to two players. It came down to Victor Wembanyama and Anthony Edwards. Okay, they came out from jump and said, no, like, I want to. Victor Wembanyama might literally save this league, almost single-handedly. Hey, buddy. Oh, yeah, I know. Good boy. I wasn't talking
to Sean. That was my dog. That was my dog.
I'm just patting Sean.
Spence is reacting. Spence is reacting to my dog and unplugging. My dog is unplugging Spence's headphones, and he'll probably bite him pretty soon.
Yeah, this is what we ran into last.
It's just the way things go. He's still a puppy. He gets very excited to see Spence.
I
specifically.
love this dog.
Rocky's he's a little bit of a bull in a china shop, and of course, the radio station is the china shop here, and he is the bull.
Okay, I'm back. I do love this dog, and I'm sure he can. Duke is here. Duke is. I'm sure he can smell Duke. But Wembanyama. I mean, first of all, and I think I don't know if I've talked to you about this before. When it comes to like the generational transfers in pro basketball, like, okay, who's next? What's next? What is this going to look like? In my opinion, it doesn't come down to like the next great young player. It comes down to the next player who's different than anything we've ever seen before. And for me, that's happened twice, okay? Because you and I'm a little bit older than you, but it was, it was Larry, it was Magic, and then it was Michael, and it was clearly Michael. It was his league, it was his game. He brought the game globally. Dream Team in '92 helped, and Michael Jordan was thought to be not just the best basketball player of that generation, but potentially the best athlete and the most well-known athlete. Then Tiger kind of came in and was doing Tiger things. So as Mike was aging, the conversation in pro basketball is like, okay, well, what's next for this generation? Kobe comes in the league, and you're like, okay, he's awesome, but I've seen this. And Kobe, by his own admission, several times in books that he wrote or interviews that he did. And look, we all did this. If we were playing basketball in the 90s, there was a commercial campaign that was literally Be Like Mike. Everybody wanted to do it. Kobe accomplished it, and he was the only one that was able to utilize it, on a level where he was also very dominant for a generation. But it wasn't new. It wasn't different. And then you start hearing about LeBron. When LeBron's like 16 or 17, it's like, okay, let's see what this looks like. And now all these high school games were televised. Back when LeBron was a senior, no high school games were televised, and he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and ESPN says, we're going to go cover a high school game. Bill Walton was on the call, and I remember watching that game going, oh, all right, well, that's the answer, because LeBron was different than Kobe or Mike. It's a different thing. And so now as LeBron is aging, we've been waiting for, okay, what's the different thing? And the different thing is Wembanyama. I mean, you watch him play, you're like, they need to raise the rim, dude. Like, it's unfair. But he also wants to kill you, slit your throat, and watch you die, like Kobe and Mike did. Like, he wants to compete. He's there to win. And so over the weekend, when both Ant and Wembanyama were all in on winning the thing, the old heads had no choice. They had to play hard or they were going to get embarrassed. And, the final game, the young kids actually did embarrass the older players. But we saw a great Kawhi stretch. LeBron was engaged. Like, ultimately, I think Wembanyama and Anthony Edwards, they set the tone, and everyone else followed. It was really fun.
Maybe they'll save the league.
We'll see.
Maybe you hear Spence talk about it on the drive today. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow. Stay tuned for the drive. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.